My debit card declined while the mechanic was still explaining how close I'd come to losing my brakes. "Try it again," I said. He did. The little machine chirped like I'd given the wrong answer on a game show. I opened my banking app expecting to find that my scholarship refund hadn't cleared. Instead, I found the deposit, $6,417.2, exactly where it had landed 2 days earlier, and a transfer beneath it for $4,800. Transfer to Denise Ellis, my mother. In the memo line, she had typed one word, family. Before I could call her, my phone vibrated with a text from my sister. "Hey, I know Mom said you're stressed, but my essay's due tomorrow. Can you work your magic tonight?" It could literally change my whole life. A document followed. I tapped it because some habits are stronger than shock. The first sentence read, "I learned independence early because no one was coming to rescue me." The mechanic leaned on the counter. "You want to try another card?" I looked through the glass wall at my 12-year-old Honda, still raised above the floor with its tires hanging down. Then I looked back at Lila's sentence. "No," I said. "I want to try another family." He blinked. "Sorry, that wasn't for you." "Okay." He glanced toward the garage. "So, about the brakes. 2 days earlier, I had been standing in my kitchen eating shredded cheese directly from the bag when the scholarship refund appeared. I didn't usually hover over my bank balance, mostly because watching a low number remain low wasn't a hobby I enjoyed. But that morning, I'd checked 3 times before 7:30. At 8:06, the balance changed so dramatically that I took a screenshot in case the university reconsidered. $6,417.22. It was the most money I'd ever seen with my name attached to it. Technically, the scholarship was larger. Tuition had already swallowed most of it without introducing itself. The refund was what remained for books, transportation, housing, and all the ordinary things universities called educational expenses, because keeping yourself alive while working for free sounded impolite. I was 27, entering the final year of my master's program in counseling and about to begin an unpaid clinical placement at a nonprofit 26 miles from my apartment. The placement required 3 full weekdays. My weekend job at a hotel front desk paid my rent and not much else. The scholarship refund was not a prize. It was a bridge with exact measurements. I had a yellow legal pad on my counter with those measurements written down. Brakes, $1,100, hopefully less. Laptop, $700 if I bought refurbished. Utilities through December, $960. Gas, $600. Books, licensing fees, emergency cushion. At the bottom, I had written reduced Saturday shifts in capital letters, then drawn a box around it like I was negotiating with the universe. My phone rang while I was still staring at the balance. The screen said, "Mom." And for one ridiculous second, I wondered if banks notified mothers when their adult daughters finally had money. "Morning," I answered. "You sound cheerful. I'm eating cheese at 8 in the morning. What gave it away? You always eat like a divorced dad when you're happy." My mother had a gift for saying mildly insulting things with such affection that you wanted to put them on a throw pillow. "I got the refund," I said. There was a pause, not long enough to be strange. "Oh, honey. Good. I can fix the car. I'm glad." I've been worried about that car. This was true. Denise worried actively. She worried in texts, voicemails, forwarded articles, weather screenshots, and plastic grocery bags filled with things she believed you lacked. The last bag she'd given me contained antacids, 3 cans of tuna, and a flashlight the size of a police baton. "I'm calling the shop when they open," I said. "Then I'm buying a laptop that doesn't sound like it's preparing for takeoff. That old thing got you this far. So did my car. I don't want either one dying during a session. Well, don't spend everything at once." I looked at the legal pad. "I have a budget. You always do." There was something in the way she said it, pride with a thin edge I couldn't identify. Then I heard a cabinet shut on her end and my father asking where she'd put the coffee filters. "Top drawer," she called. "They're not there. They are if you move the aluminum foil." "To what country?" "Glenn, I'm on the phone." I smiled despite myself. My parents had been married 31 years and communicated largely through locating household objects. Neither of them had moved. "How's Dad?" I asked, apparently under attack by the kitchen. "Tell him I love him. He can hear you." "I love you, Mara," my father shouted from somewhere in the background. "Your mother hides supplies." "I organize," Mom said. "Some of us respect categories. I wrote call mechanic beside the budget. Is everything okay? Yes. Why? You called before 8:30. I'm allowed to call my own daughter. You are. You just usually wait until I'm in class." She laughed, but it arrived half a beat late. "I wanted to ask if you're coming Sunday." "For dinner?" "For your father's birthday." "Dad's birthday is next month. We're talking about doing the restaurant Sunday because your sister's schedule is impossible next month. Of course we were moving Dad's birthday for Lila. My father could have been born again and Mom would have checked Lila's calendar before announcing it. What restaurant? That Italian place near the mall. The one Dad doesn't like? He likes it fine. He said their sauce tastes like ketchup that went to college. Mom lowered her voice. Lila has a gift card. There it was. The Ellis family decision-making process, in 6 words. "I'll be there," I said. I knew you would. Again, warmth. Again, that little edge. Before hanging up, she told me to call the mechanic immediately and not let them find extra problems just because you look agreeable. 10 minutes later, she texted me the number of a shop I had already used for 4 years. That was my mother. She could take over a situation you had handled and make it feel, somehow, like care. Lila called that afternoon while I was cleaning out my car for the repair appointment. She opened with, "Before you say no, no. You don't even know what it is. It's never a weather report when you start that way. I need a tiny favor." I pulled a petrified French fry from beneath the passenger seat. Tiny like returning a dress, or tiny like helping you move a sectional down 3 flights of stairs? The sectional was not my fault. You bought it from a man whose listing said, "Bring 4 strong people." And you brought Glenn. Our father was 58. He has farm energy. Dad sells commercial flooring. That's basically farming, but indoors. I laughed. Lila could do that. She could arrive at the edge of your patience wearing roller skates and somehow make you enjoy the collision. Her favor was an essay. She was applying to an accelerated graduate program in mental health counseling at Lakehurst College, and the deadline was Friday. She had a draft, allegedly. She wanted me to just make it sound smart. "You are smart," I said, tossing the French fry into a garbage bag. "That has never stopped me from using commas emotionally. Use the writing center. They'll make me schedule an appointment." "Yes, institutions are cruel. Mara." I heard traffic behind her and the tick of her turn signal. Lila was probably calling between the dental office where she worked and the apartment she could barely afford because it had tall windows and an exposed brick wall she'd fallen in love with online. "I'll look at it if I have time," I said, "but not Thursday night. I have orientation Friday morning. You're the best." That wasn't a yes. It had yes energy. "Send it early, I will." She didn't. That evening, I went to my hotel shift and spent 7 hours checking in people who were furious about parking. A man in a golf shirt asked if I knew who he was, and I almost told him I barely knew who I was. At midnight, during the slow hour, I opened my scholarship portal and reread the award conditions. Maintain enrollment, complete placement hours, remain in good academic standing. I had worked 6 years to get there, 2 classes at a time, then 3. Morning seminars after overnight shifts, group projects with people who used the phrase circle back as if we were all being paid. I had dropped out once for a semester when Dad needed shoulder surgery and Mom couldn't manage the driving alone. Nobody had forced me. That distinction mattered in my family. We didn't force Mara. Mara offered. When I got home, there was still no essay from Lila. There was, however, a missed call from Mom at 11:42 p.m. No message. I called the next morning. "You called?" "Did I?" "At 11:42. "Oh, my phone was in my purse. It probably dialed you." "From your favorite screen?" "Maybe it misses you." She changed the subject and asked whether I had made the repair appointment. I said Thursday at 10. She said good. I asked if she needed anything. No, she said quickly. Everything's handled. That should have bothered me more than it did. Thursday morning, I drove to the shop with both hands tight on the steering wheel. The brakes had started making a soft, grinding sound, the kind you could ignore if you turned the radio up and had poor survival instincts. The mechanic's name was Luis. He had repaired my car often enough to know I wanted the bad news in order of urgency and price. He called me into the office 40 minutes later. "You waited too long," he said. I was trying to see if the sound resolved itself through personal growth. It did not. He showed me photographs, explained pads and rotors, and quoted $1,284. I felt sick for about 3 seconds. Then I remembered the refund and experienced the strange luxury of having a problem and the money to solve the same problem at the same time. "Do it," I said. He looked surprised by how fast I answered. Usually, repairs involve me calling 3 places, checking my credit card balance, and asking Luis which part of the car could remain dangerous until payday. At the counter, I inserted my debit card. Declined. I tried again. Declined. Then I opened the banking app and found the transfer. For a few seconds, I assumed it had to be fraud. Someone had copied my mother's name. Someone had accessed the account, stolen almost $5,000, and left a sarcastic memo. Family. I called Mom. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. Then Lila's essay arrived with the text about changing her whole life. Luis was waiting politely, pretending not to see my face. I moved $900 from savings and put the rest on a credit card. The card went through. That left $42 in my savings account and a repair balance collecting interest before the car had even come down from the lift. Outside, I called Mom a 3rd time. This time, she answered. "Mara," she said, already breathless. "I can explain." I stood beside the garage where the air smelled like hot rubber and rain on pavement. "Did you take $4,800 from my account?" I transferred it. That wasn't my question. A long silence followed. In the garage, somebody dropped a tool, and a radio announcer laughed about something I couldn't hear. Finally, my mother said, "Your sister's rent was an emergency." An emergency, I repeated. She was going to be evicted. "So you took my scholarship." I borrowed money from an account I'm legally on. The word legally changed the temperature of the conversation. I looked at the bank screen again. After my rent payment, phone bill, and the university's technology fee had cleared, my available checking balance was $173. The transfer hadn't merely reduced my cushion. It had reached backward and made money I had already spent disappear. You knew that was my account. I helped you open it. When I was 17, and we never changed it. Because I forgot you were on it. Not because I thought someday if Lila's exposed brick gets too expensive, Mom might help herself. That's unfair. Which part? Your sister didn't choose for her hours to be cut. She reduced them to work on her application. Most people work on applications after work. You don't know what she's been dealing with. I nearly laughed, but it came out as a hard breath. Apparently, I don't know what anybody's dealing with. You called me the morning the refund came in. Was that why? No. Mom, I called because I wanted to talk to you. You asked if it had arrived. You told me it had. You knew it was coming. You've been talking about that scholarship for months. I was happy for you. Were you waiting for it? The silence answered before she did. Mara, I had a plan. What plan? I'm picking up extra shifts at the library. Your father has a commission coming in. We would have replaced it. When? As soon as we could. That isn't a date. I didn't have the luxury of a date. Lila's landlord gave her until Wednesday at 5. So you gave yourself until Wednesday at 4:59 to steal from me? Stop using that word. What word would make this easier for you? She exhaled close to the phone. I could picture her standing in the kitchen, one hand pressing against the butcher block counter my father had installed, crooked and refused to discuss. Mom worked part-time at the public library, mostly because she loved people's business, and books gave her a respectable reason to ask questions. She was probably still wearing the blue cardigan she wore on Thursday mornings, the one with the wooden buttons. "I panicked," she said. "I saw one daughter about to lose her home and another daughter with funds available." Funds available, I know how that sounds. It sounds like you saw my name on money and decided it belonged to the family. I decided we could survive this. Who is we? Mara. No, tell me. Who survives? Because I'm standing at a garage with a credit card balance I didn't have an hour ago. I told you not to let that mechanic invent things. My brakes are gone. He didn't sneak into the parking lot and sand them down. How much is the repair? That is not the question. I'm trying to help. You already helped. She made a small wounded sound and my body reacted before my mind did. My shoulders dropped. My voice almost softened. I hated how trained I was. Then she said, "If you have enough left to pay for the car, I don't understand why you're acting like you're stranded." I stared through the garage door. Luis was guiding my car onto another lift. The back of his coveralls said, "Rivera Auto" in white stitching, one corner coming loose. "I didn't have enough," I said. "I used savings and a credit card. We'll pay the card." "With what?" "Your father and I will figure something out." "Did Dad know?" Another pause. "That's between your father and me." "No, it became between all of us when you used my bank account. He knew Lila needed help. That wasn't what I asked." She got quiet again. I closed my eyes. Does Lila know? She knows I paid the rent. Does she know where the money came from? I didn't want to put her in the middle. I actually laughed then. A woman walking from the neighboring tire shop glanced at me and sped up. "You took my money for her, but telling her would put her in the middle. She has her interview application due. She doesn't need this stress today." "And I do?" "You handle stress differently." There it was. Not cruelty? Not exactly. It was worse because she said it with complete confidence, like she was naming a medical fact. I leaned against the concrete wall. How much rent did she owe? 2 months plus late fees. $4,800. The landlord added legal fees. She lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's a safe building. She lives across from a tap room where people throw up in decorative planters. Mara, I am not debating her housing choices with you in a parking lot. You didn't debate my money choices with me anywhere. She said my name again, lower this time, warning and pleading at once. I took my keys from my bag even though my car was 6 feet in the air. I'm closing the account. Don't do something impulsive. I'm being impulsive. If you remove me, I can't help if there's ever a real emergency. I looked at the transfer memo. Family. I think we've reached different definitions of that word. I ended the call. Mom called back immediately. I let it ring. Then Dad called. That was fast, even for them. I answered because there was still a part of me that believed my father might say something that returned the world to its proper angle. "Mayor," he said. He was the only person who called me that. Usually I liked it. "Did you know? Your mother said Lila was behind. Did you know she took it from my account? I knew she was trying to find a solution." Dad. I did not know which account. I slid down the wall until I was crouching, then stood again because the ground was damp and humiliation apparently had limits. She transferred almost $5,000. I just heard. What did she tell you? That she used part of your scholarship refund temporarily. Part. I'm not defending it. You're using the voice you use when you're about to defend something. What voice? The reasonable hostage negotiator voice. I'm trying to keep everybody calm. I'm calm. I'm asking whether you think she had the right to do it. He sighed. No, she should have talked to you. That isn't the same answer. What do you want me to say? It was wrong. All right, it was wrong. The relief I felt was so immediate it embarrassed me. Then he added, but your sister was days away from having her things put on the sidewalk. The relief vanished. Mom said the deadline was yesterday. Exactly. No, Not exactly. Lila had 2 months before yesterday. You know how she gets when she's overwhelmed. I watched water collect in a shallow crack in the pavement. I get overwhelmed. I know. What do I do? He hesitated. The answer was obvious. I made lists. I picked up shifts. I drove on damaged brakes. I opened mail even when I knew I wouldn't like what was inside. That's different, he said. Why? Because you don't shut down. It sounded so close to a compliment that I might once have accepted it as one. Louis stepped through the garage door holding a clipboard. When he saw I was on the phone, he pointed at my car, held up 2 fingers and mouthed, 2 hours. I nodded. Dad, I have orientation tomorrow. I'm supposed to cut back at work when my placement starts Monday. I had a whole plan for that money, and you'll still do it. How? We'll make it right. When? He used the same words Mom had. Extra library shifts, a future commission, small payments until things improved. Every sentence leaned on a tomorrow no one could name. I need to go, I said. Don't call Lila while you're angry. She sent me her essay. Oh. Did you know she was going to? She said you offered to look at it. I said I would if she sent it early. Then don't mix the 2 things. I went completely still. What? Your mother made a bad decision. That's between you and us. Lila's application is separate. The essay she wrote while not working enough to pay rent is separate from the rent Mom paid with my scholarship. I mean, emotionally separate. That is not a thing. Mara, if this program helps her get stable, maybe we don't keep having these emergencies. This was one of my father's favorite ideas. One final rescue would end the need for rescues. We had tested the theory with Lila's cosmetology deposit, her medical billing certificate, a used Nissan with a transmission that lasted 5 months, and the first month's rent on the apartment she was now trying not to lose. Mom could have asked me, I said. She was afraid you'd say no. Dad realized it the second the sentence left him. Neither of us spoke. A truck rumbled past the garage, spraying water across the curb. So she knew, I said. Mayor. She knew I might not agree, and she took it anyway. She was scared. Everybody keeps being scared right before I get the bill. I ended that call, too. I spent the next 2 hours in a coffee shop across from the garage, drinking one small coffee so slowly it became a lease agreement. I opened a new checking account from my phone, redirected my hotel deposit, and emailed the university's financial office to ask whether future funds could be sent there. Then I opened Lila's essay. It was not terrible. That annoyed me more than if it had been a disaster. Lila wrote the way she talked, fast, funny, and slightly sideways. She described helping anxious patients at the dental office and how fear could make a grown person apologize for needing care. There was a good counselor somewhere inside her. I knew that. I had always known it. But the essay kept presenting accidents as character development. Her interrupted career training became the courage to change direction. Her unstable employment became choosing purpose over comfort. The apartment crisis was absent, of course. So were Mom, Dad, and me. I reached the line about no one coming to rescue her and highlighted it. My fingers moved automatically toward the comment button. Too broad. Use a concrete example. That was what I would have written yesterday. Instead, I closed the document. Lila called before I could decide what to say. Hey, she said brightly. Did you see it? Yes. How bad? Did Mom pay your rent? The brightness disappeared. She told you? She took the money from my scholarship refund. What? Her surprise sounded real. I wanted it not to. She transferred $4,800 out of my account. No, she said it was savings. Did you think Mom and Dad had $4,800 in savings? I didn't ask for that much. That's not an answer. I knew she was helping. I thought Dad had a commission or something. We'd all built entire lives on Dad's imaginary future commissions. Lila was silent long enough that I heard the dental office phone ringing behind her. That's why she was acting weird, she said. What are you going to do? About what? The question hit harder than it should have. About my money, Lila. The rent's already paid. I looked through the coffee shop window at the garage across the street. So that makes it mine? I didn't say that. I'm trying to understand what you expect me to do today. You could start by not asking me to improve an essay about how nobody rescues you. She breathed into the phone. Mara, the deadline is tomorrow. I know. If I miss it, that doesn't put your money back. No. And if I get into this program, I can finally make enough to stop needing help. I almost heard Dad's voice inside hers. Please, she said, be angry at Mom. Be angry at me after tomorrow. Just don't blow up my application over something I didn't even know she did. I opened the document again and stared at the highlighted sentence. Then I typed a reply beneath her original text. I can't help you tell a story about independence while my scholarship is paying your rent. I hit send while she was still on the phone. Lila's phone chimed in my ear. You sent that while we were talking? Yes. Why? Because when I say things out loud, you keep negotiating like I'm a cable company. That message is cruel. It's accurate. I didn't take your scholarship. You're living in it. She went quiet. In the background, someone called her name and a drawer slid shut. I'm at work, she said. So am I, Lila. Or I would be if I weren't waiting for my car. I mean, I can't have this conversation right now. You called me. Because I thought you were reading my essay. I did read it. Then you know how important it is. Yes. You've spent years telling me I'd be good at this. I still think you could be. Could be? Don't do that. You make one mistake, and suddenly I'm a hypothetical person? This isn't one mistake. What did I do? The question was louder this time. I pulled the phone away from my ear. I knew Mom was helping, Lila said, lowering her voice. I didn't know it was your money. If she'd told me, what? I would have asked questions. Would you have refused it? She didn't answer. A barista wiped the table beside mine, moving her cloth around my laptop charger. I hadn't brought my laptop, but the outlet was making me think about the one I could no longer buy. That's what I thought, I said. What was I supposed to do? Tell my landlord to send it back. You could tell Mom what she did was wrong. I will. You could figure out how to repay me. With what money? You had a different answer when it was your landlord asking. Lila inhaled sharply. Wow. I knew that, wow. It meant I had crossed from injured to mean, a border my family monitored closely. I have to go, she said. Okay. No, not okay. I need you to understand that I didn't plan this. I understand, and I'm sorry you're stressed. There were a dozen apologies available to her, and she had chosen the one that apologized for my reaction. Good luck with your essay, I said. She hung up. Luis called my name 10 minutes later. My car was ready, though ready turned out to mean the urgent brakes had been repaired, and 3 other items were circled in yellow on the invoice, like threats waiting their turn. The front tires, he said, tapping one circle. Not today, maybe, but soon. Define soon in units of paychecks. 2. What if they're bad paychecks? He smiled reluctantly. Drive carefully in rain. I signed the credit card receipt. The total was $1,296.18 after tax. I stared at my signature. It looked like someone had startled me halfway through my last name. Luis folded the receipt and put it in a white envelope. You okay? He asked. My mother stole my scholarship refund to pay my sister's rent. He nodded once. I meant about the car. I know. Apparently I'm telling everyone. My cousin stole my identity to finance a motorcycle. That's worse. He crashed it. Much worse. He was fine. Then I'm back to undecided. Luis handed me the keys. Brakes are good. At least something was. Mom's car was parked outside my apartment when I got home. She was sitting behind the wheel with both hands in her lap. She had changed out of the blue cardigan and into a green raincoat. A paper grocery bag occupied the passenger seat. Mom got out first. You weren't answering. I was driving. You didn't answer before that either. I was choosing peace. Well, you weren't giving any. She lifted the grocery bag. I brought food. Of course she had. My mother could not enter a conflict without provisions. I unlocked the building door. You can come up for 10 minutes. Why 10? Because 11 would be reckless. She followed me upstairs, the grocery bag rustling against her coat. Inside my apartment, she immediately noticed the yellow legal pad on the kitchen counter. I grabbed it before she could read the budget. "What did you bring?" "Soup, bread, chicken salad." "Your father bought the chicken salad, so check the date. Is this food worth $4,800? Mara. I'm asking for accounting purposes. She set the bag down harder than necessary. A can rolled sideways inside it. I came to apologize. Then why did you start by criticizing how I receive your calls? Because you know silence makes me crazy. I was busy discovering poverty. You are not in poverty. I laughed. That's your opening? No, my opening is that I'm sorry. She took off her raincoat but didn't sit. Without it, she looked smaller. My mother was 5'3" and had spent my entire life behaving as if height were a rumor she could disprove through posture. I should have asked you, she said. And if I said no? Her mouth tightened. That's the problem, I said. You keep apologizing for skipping a question when we both know you didn't want my answer. I didn't have time to convince you. You mean get my consent. This isn't a courtroom. No, in a courtroom I'd at least get to speak before sentencing. She turned toward the window. Rain streaked the glass behind my thrift store table, where two of the chairs wobbled because I had never bought the little felt pads I kept forgetting were not structural repairs. Lila was hysterical, Mom said. She called me Tuesday night. Her landlord said if the balance wasn't paid by 5 the next day, he was filing. Why was she 2 months behind? She had expenses. We all have expenses. Her insurance went up. Her car needed that repair. She reduced her hours because she was studying for the entrance exam. That was a choice. It was an investment. So is my degree. I know that. Do you? Her face shifted. For a second, she looked not angry but cornered. You got the scholarship, she said. You're doing well. You have a job. You had some savings. Had. We will replace it. And you still haven't told me when. I can give you $70 next Friday. I waited because I thought I'd misheard her. 70? It's what I can spare from my library check. At that rate, you'll repay me in 69 weeks. Then your father can add more when he gets paid. Dad's income pays your mortgage. He has a commission pending. Dad always has a commission pending. Do not make fun of your father's work. I'm not. I'm pointing out that your repayment plan is imaginary. Mom gripped the back of one of the wobbly chairs. What do you want me to do? The money is gone. That sentence moved through me slowly. The money is gone. As if it had evaporated. As if no hand had transferred it. No landlord had received it. No sister had stood under tall windows in a safe building and benefited from its disappearance. I want you to stop saying that like it happened to all of us, I said. She looked at me. It happened to me. I'm trying to make it right. You brought soup. You need to eat. I needed my scholarship. She flinched. I wished she hadn't. Her flinch made room for sympathy, and sympathy was a door she had walked through before. Mom pulled out the chair and sat. It rocked beneath her, one leg short. You were always so practical, she said. Was? Are? You are. Even as a little, she stopped and corrected herself. Even when you were younger. If we told you something cost too much, you understood. Lila would hear that as rejection. She always took things personally. Money is personal when you take it from someone. I'm explaining, not excusing. It sounded like a phrase she had practiced on the drive over. You were easier, she said. Not easier to love. Easier to reason with. So I got less. Her eyes lifted to mine. I hadn't known I was going to say it until the words were in the room. You got more trust, she said. Trust is what you call it when you assume I'll survive whatever you do. That is not fair. Then make it fair. How? Call the bank with me. Remove yourself from the account. Her expression changed immediately. You don't have to do that. I already opened a new one. You opened another account? Yes. You make one rash decision. I made it after you took $4,800. And now you're cutting me out of your finances as punishment. I am 27. Most adults' mothers are cut out of their finances by default. What if something happens? Something happened. I mean to you." I stared at her. Mom's anger faded first. She looked down at her hands, turning her wedding ring with her thumb. "I was afraid," she said quietly. "I know. I thought if Lila lost the apartment, she'd quit the program application. She'd take it as proof she couldn't do anything. And if I lose my placement, you won't." She answered so quickly it almost overlapped the question. That certainty was the whole thing. Lila might crumble. I would not. Therefore, every weight should go on my side of the scale. "You don't know that," I said. "You've never quit. I left school for a semester. For your father." "Yes, that wasn't quitting. It still cost me a semester. We needed you." The words landed between us with the plainness of a confession. Mom seemed to hear them too. Her fingers stopped moving on her ring. My phone buzzed on the counter. Lila had sent another message. "I'm sorry about the money. I am, but refusing to help me now just hurts both of us." Mom glanced toward the sound. "Is that your sister?" I turned the phone face down. "Did you tell her to say that?" "No. Did you tell her I was being unreasonable? I told her you were upset. Upset is when the grocery store stops carrying your coffee creamer." She feels terrible. She feels terrible and still wants the proofreading. The deadline matters. I let out a laugh with no humor in it. "You came here to apologize and still brought up the essay. I came here because I love you both. Then go home and let both of us deal with what we did. What did Lila do if she didn't know?" She accepted an answer she knew not to question. Mom stood and put on her raincoat. Her eyes were wet, which made me feel both guilty and furious that I felt guilty. At the door, she turned back. "Sunday is still your father's birthday dinner. His birthday is next month. Don't punish him." There it was again. Any boundary I placed around Mom or Lila could travel through the family and injure an innocent bystander. I said I'd be there. She nodded, then looked toward the grocery bag. "Keep the soup." I was planning to. That almost made her smile. Almost. After she left, I unpacked the bag. Soup, bread, chicken salad, antacids, and a new package of black pens because I had once mentioned I was out. At the bottom was an envelope with $200 in cash. Mom had written CAR on the front. I stood in the kitchen holding it while my phone rang. It was the director of my clinical placement, confirming that orientation started at 8 sharp. I slid the envelope under the yellow legal pad and told her I would be early. My alarm went off at 5:30, and I woke with one hand already reaching for a phone that wasn't ringing. For a few seconds, I had the rare peace of not remembering. Then I saw Lila's message on the lock screen. I submitted it. I guess we'll see. No accusation. No good luck at orientation. Just a sentence shaped like a door closing. I showered, dressed in the navy pants I saved for occasions involving professionalism, and made coffee strong enough to qualify as a controlled substance. The envelope marked CAR was still under the legal pad. I took out the cash and counted it, though I knew there were 10 20s. Then I opened my credit card app and made a $200 payment from checking. Mom's money went from an envelope to a bank in less than a minute, barely touching my life. I wrote $4,600 beneath my budget and circled it. The nonprofit occupied a converted insurance office in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a store that sold custom aquariums. A small blue sign read, "Harbor Community Counseling," though the nearest harbor was over an hour away. I arrived at 7:36. The front door was locked. A woman in a long gray sweater stood inside holding a travel mug. She watched me tug the handle, glanced at the wall clock, and took a slow drink before coming over. "Orientation is at 8, she said through the glass. "I know. It's 7:36. I know." She unlocked the door. "Then you're either very committed or afraid of traffic." "Yes." That earned the smallest smile. "I'm Dr. Jocelyn Park, Site Director, Mara Ellis. I know, I have your file." She stepped aside, and I entered a waiting room decorated in determined shades of beige. A white noise machine hissed beside the reception window. A basket on the coffee table held stress balls shaped like brains. Dr. Park looked at my folder, then at me. You live in Brookdale? Yes. That commute can be unpleasant. I left room for unpleasant. You'll need to leave room for unpredictable. She said it without menace. She was probably in her early 40s, though there was something timeless about her expression, like she had been born already skeptical. Her black hair was pulled into a knot, and her travel mug said, "Please do not confuse your Google search with my degree." I can do unpredictable, I said. That's what organized people say before unpredictable becomes personal. I wondered if she had access to my banking app, too. The other interns arrived closer to 8. There were 4 of us. Priya, who worked evenings at a crisis hotline. Ben, who had 3 different pens clipped to his shirt. Tasha, who announced within 6 minutes that she cried when nervous. And me, who apparently arrived before the building. Orientation lasted most of the day. We reviewed confidentiality, scheduling, documentation, supervision, and the exact number of ways a badly written case note could ruin everyone's afternoon. Dr. Park spoke quickly and never repeated herself unless someone asked a good question. At 10:15, my phone vibrated in my bag. Mom. At 10:17, it vibrated again. Lila. At 10:20, Dad. A family emergency used to mean I answered all 3. Now I looked at Dr. Park explaining attendance expectations and imagined saying, "Sorry, my family is conducting a coordinated feelings event." I turned the phone off. During lunch, Priya found me in the break room staring at a vending machine sandwich. "Don't," she said. "I wasn't going to. You were reading the ingredients. I like evidence." "The evidence is that the bread is sweating." She opened the refrigerator and handed me a plastic container. I brought too much pasta. "I can't take your lunch. It's my girlfriend's revenge pasta." I looked at the red sauce. She cooked when she was mad? She cooks when I'm right. It's complicated. Eat. I took a small portion. It had roasted tomatoes, basil, and enough garlic to prevent future relationships. This is incredible. I know. I should disagree with her more often. I laughed, then nearly cried. It happened so fast that I covered it by coughing into my elbow. Priya studied me, but she didn't ask if I was okay. I liked her immediately for that. After lunch, Dr. Park gave us our preliminary schedules. I would be there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 to 5, with supervision on Tuesday mornings by video. My first month would be observation and intake support, then my caseload would grow. 3 absences require review, she said. Chronic lateness becomes an attendance concern before that. People receiving services here have had enough adults fail to show up. The sentence lodged under my ribs. I had enough gas for the next week. After that, every trip would need to come from the remaining scholarship money, my hotel checks, or a credit card. The refund had been supposed to let me reduce my Saturday shifts, but I had already texted my manager asking if any extra hours were available. At 4:30, Dr. Park handed me a key card. "You were early," she said. "I plan to continue. Don't plan so hard that you become useless the first time something interferes. Is that advice for counseling or parking?" "Yes." Outside, I turned my phone on. 14 messages arrived. Mom wanted to know whether I had found the cash. Dad wanted everyone to take a breath before Sunday. Lila had sent 3 paragraphs explaining that she had not used my edits, had not asked Mom to take anything, and did not appreciate being treated like an accomplice. 7 minutes later, she had sent a photo of her application confirmation page. Then, at 2:41, how did orientation go? That was Lila, too. She could stab you with a fork and notice you needed salt. I typed, "It went well." The dots appeared immediately. "I'm glad." I waited. She wrote, "I hate that this happened." Not, "I hate what Mom did." Not, "I'm going to fix it." I put the phone away. My manager at the hotel called before I left the parking lot. "Good news," he said. "Darren quit." That feels like good news for Darren. It's good news for you if you want Saturday overnight. What happened to my 3 to 11? You can do both. That's 16 hours. 15 and a half. You get a meal break. I accepted before my body had the opportunity to vote. Saturday became a fluorescent blur. I checked in a bachelor party, unclogged a lobby toilet because maintenance stopped answering, and explained to a woman from Ohio that I could not refund a reservation she had made at a hotel with the same name in Tennessee. At 4 in the morning, I sat behind the front desk eating Mom's soup from a paper cup. The soup was good. That irritated me. Dad texted at 9 while I was sleeping. Dinner moved to 5:30. Lila's working until 4. Please come. Love you. The Italian restaurant was crowded when I arrived Sunday. Mom had reserved a booth beneath a framed photograph of a village no one in our family could identify. Dad stood to hug me. He smelled like cedar aftershave and the mints he kept in his glove compartment. "There she is," he said too brightly. A gift bag sat beside him. I had picked up a new tape measure for him on my way over because his old one no longer retracted without assistance. His birthday was still 4 weeks away, but apparently time had yielded to Lila's work schedule. Mom kissed my cheek. "You look tired." "I worked overnight." "Why?" The question was so astonishing that I took a second to answer. Money. Her lips pressed together. Lila arrived 10 minutes late wearing black scrubs and carrying a bakery box. She hugged Dad, apologized to the table, then looked at me. "Hi." She slid into the booth opposite me. Her hair was twisted into a bun that had partly collapsed, and there was a faint blue ink mark on her cheek. She looked tired, too. I resented that tiredness for making her human. Dad opened his menu. No politics, no finances, and nobody discusses my age. "We're celebrating your birthday a month early," I said. "Your age is still under review." He pointed at me. "That's my girl." Mom's eyes flicked toward Lila, checking whether the joke had created peace. We ordered. Dad got chicken parmesan even though he claimed to hate the sauce. Mom asked 3 times whether I was eating enough. Lila talked about a patient who had screamed during a routine cleaning, and she did an impression so good that I laughed before I could stop myself. For half an hour, we were ourselves. That was the hardest part. My family was not a dark room where everyone whispered about money. We were bread passed across a table. We were Dad pretending to misunderstand the menu. We were Mom moving the candle away from Lila's sleeve before Lila noticed it was burning. Love had never been missing. It had just been distributed differently than consequence. When Dad went to the restroom and Mom followed him because she did not trust him to decline dessert, Lila and I were alone. She folded and unfolded the edge of her napkin. "I really didn't know," she said. "I believe you." She looked up. "You do?" "Yes." "Then why are you still mad at me?" "Because now you know." Her hand stopped. "What do you want me to do? I don't want to assign you remorse like homework. I'm serious, so am I. I can't get the rent money back. You could repay some of it. I have $43 until payday. I had to put my brakes on a credit card, and I'm sorry." "Okay, what does that mean?" "It means I heard you." She leaned closer. "I could give you part of my next check." "How much?" "I don't know. 100? Mom says she can do 70. That's 170 against 4,800. I'm trying. You're proposing. What's the difference? Trying costs you something before you get credit." Her face hardened. "Do you want me to lose the apartment after Mom just paid to save it?" "No. It sounds like you do. I want you to notice that every option protects the apartment first. It's my home. And the scholarship was my way through the year." She looked away. Mom and Dad returned with a slice of chocolate cake carrying 1 candle. The server started singing. Our argument vanished beneath clapping and embarrassment. Dad blew out the candle and opened my gift. He pulled the tape measure from the bag and laughed. "Your old one was a menace," I said. "It had character. It had to be pushed back in with a screwdriver." He reached across the table and squeezed my shoulder. Mom watched us. "See? This is why I wanted everyone together." Nobody answered. When the check came, Dad reached for it. Mom stopped him. "We have the gift card." Lila dug through her purse. Then she froze. "I think I left it at home." Mom looked at me. It was barely a glance. Automatic. Almost innocent. I set my hands in my lap. Dad pulled out his credit card. "Happy birthday to me," he said. The gift card was apparently on Lila's kitchen counter beneath a stack of unopened mail. She found it while Dad was still waiting for the restaurant charge to appear on his banking app. She sent a picture to the family group text with 3 crying emojis and wrote, "I am the worst." Mom replied, "You are tired." Dad replied with a photograph of the tape measure extended across his lap. I did not reply. Monday morning, I left home at 6:40. Traffic slowed near the interstate entrance, stopped entirely beside the stadium, then opened just long enough for everyone to race toward the next standstill. I arrived at Harbor at 7:51 with coffee on my sleeve and a headache behind my right eye. Dr. Park was unlocking her office. 8 minutes to spare, she said. 9. Reception clock is fast. Then I'm early in Harbor time. That's the only time we have. My first week involved observation, paperwork, and learning which doors stuck when the weather was humid. I shadowed Priya during an intake with a 52-year-old restaurant manager named Calvin, who had begun having panic attacks after his employer changed owners. He kept describing the attacks as getting stupid in the chest. Priya asked good questions, slow ones. She left space after his answers instead of filling it with reassurance. I sat beside her with my legal pad and tried not to think about the $70 Mom had transferred that morning. The bank notification had arrived while I was brushing my teeth. Transfer from Denise Ellis, $70.00. Memo, payment 1. Mom texted a minute later. I said I would start Friday, but I had it now. Please acknowledge. Not thank you, not even I'm sorry. Please acknowledge, as though she had delivered a certified letter. I wrote, received. Remaining balance $4,530. She responded with a thumbs up that felt hostile. After Calvin left, Priya turned toward me. What did you notice? He apologized every time he described a physical symptom. Good. What else? He kept saying the ownership change wasn't a big deal, but his first attack happened the day they removed his name from the schedule. Priya nodded. What would you ask next? Whether the panic is connected to not knowing if he still has a job? Maybe. What would happen if you asked it exactly like that? He might agree because I said it first. Dr. Park had entered quietly enough that I didn't notice until she spoke. Or he might spend the next 10 minutes proving you wrong because you made the theory too clean, she said. She leaned against the doorframe. People rarely hand us a single cause. They bring groceries. Priya smiled. That's one of her sayings. It's not a saying, it's an observation. I thought of Mom's bag on my kitchen counter. Soup, antacids, pens, cash, apology, accusation, groceries. Let the person decide what belongs together, Dr. Park said. Our job is not to arrange the bag before they've unpacked it. At lunch, I wrote that down. By Wednesday, the front tires began vibrating above 60 miles per hour. I drove 58. By Friday, I had received my first hotel paycheck under the new schedule and immediately divided it among rent, gas, groceries, and the credit card. I bought bread, eggs, peanut butter, and a bag of apples with one soft apple hidden in the middle like a scam. Lila's promised $100 did not arrive. I waited until Friday evening, then sent, "Were you still planning to make a payment today?" She read it while I was clocking in at the hotel. The dots appeared, vanished, then reappeared. I had to pay the application fee and my insurance. Can I do it next check? I typed, "You offered." She replied, "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't realize both would hit this week." I thought of asking why she had not checked. I thought of sending a screenshot of my credit card interest. Instead, I wrote, "What date? 2 Fridays from now. Amount? I'll let you know." I put my phone in my locker before I said something that would turn the conversation into a trial about my tone. At the front desk, a wedding party had reserved 20 rooms and apparently planned to use all of them as a single, moving argument. A man wearing suspenders asked for a key to a room that wasn't his. A bridesmaid cried beside the ice machine. At 2 a.m, the groom's aunt brought me half a centerpiece because she said I looked too serious for a young person. The centerpiece was 3 white roses in a square vase. I took it home and put it on the kitchen table. By Tuesday, one rose had opened and the other two had collapsed as if exhausted by proximity. My life narrowed into scheduled blocks: harbor, traffic, hotel, sleep. Laundry only when the available underwear made the decision urgent. Mom called every other day. If I answered, she asked practical questions in a careful voice. Had I eaten? Were the breaks okay? Did I know rain was expected? She did not mention the transfer unless I did. When I said I needed a timeline for repayment, she said Dad's commission was still processing. When I asked whether she had removed herself from the old account, she reminded me that I had to be present at the bank too. So we went Tuesday afternoon. The banker was a cheerful man named Scott who kept describing the account as a product. "I no longer want this product," I said. Mom sat beside me, holding her purse with both hands. Scott smiled at his screen. "We can remove one owner if both parties sign, or we can close the account and open a new product. I already opened one." "With us?" "No." His smile dimmed by 1 watt. Mom shifted in her chair. "I still think closing it is unnecessary." Scott looked between us, suddenly fascinated by the keyboard. "The account is mine," I said. "My paychecks and university funds went into it. I'm closing it. You could simply use the new one and leave this for emergencies." "No." "What if you're in the hospital?" "Then I won't need you to buy my sister an apartment." Scott stopped typing. Mom's cheeks went pink. "That isn't what happened." "I know. Apartments come with equity." Scott cleared his throat. "There is a remaining balance of $173.08. Transfer it to my new account." Mom looked at me. "You don't need to humiliate me in front of a stranger. I'm trying to close a bank account. You know what you're doing." For 1 second, I did know. I had said the apartment line because Scott was there. I had wanted someone outside the family to hear enough to understand that I was not irrational. The realization did not make me less angry. It just made the anger feel less clean. "I'm sorry for that comment," I said. Mom blinked, surprised. "I still want to close the account. Scott printed forms. We signed them." Mom's signature was neat and rounded. Mine looked like the one on the mechanic's receipt, startled halfway through. Outside the bank, she stopped beside my car. "You think I'm a thief. I think you took money you knew I might not give you. I made a terrible choice." "Yes, that isn't the same as being a terrible person. I didn't say it was. You don't have to." A gust of wind blew hair across her face. She tucked it behind her ear and looked older than she had inside the bank. "I have spent my entire life doing for you girls." "I know." "Do you?" "Yes, Mom. That's why this hurts." She looked down at the cracked pavement. "I'm working Saturday," she said. "They need someone for the book sale." "Okay, I can probably send another 70 next week." "Okay, your father is upset that you're keeping a total." "Dad doesn't have to look at it." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Before getting into her car, she touched my arm. It was such a normal gesture that I nearly reached for her. Instead, we both pretended she had only noticed lint. The second week at Harbor, Dr. Park let me conduct part of an intake while Priya observed. My voice sounded too formal at first. I heard myself say, "Can you tell me more about that experience?" and wanted to apologize to the entire English language. The client, a 34-year-old bartender named Renee, looked at me and said, "You mean, why did I go back?" I glanced at Priya. She gave me nothing. "If that's the question you want to answer," I said. Renee smiled without humor. "You're careful. Occupational hazard. You're not occupied yet." That made all three of us laugh, and the room changed. The rest came more naturally. Afterward, Dr. Park called me into her office. I sat across from a desk covered in folders, a ceramic fox, and one dead succulent she had apparently decided to keep as a warning. "You did well," she said. "Thank you. You watched Priya every time you were uncertain. I was trying to avoid mistakes. That's not avoidable." Comforting. "You're good at reading a room. You're less good at allowing a room to be uncomfortable." I thought of Sunday dinner, Dad's cake, Mom's glance when the gift card was missing, my hands folded in my lap. "I can handle discomfort," I said. I didn't say handle, I said allow. My phone vibrated inside my bag. I ignored it. Dr. Park nodded toward the bag. That looked difficult. It was a phone. It seemed powerful. After the meeting, I checked the screen. Lila had sent a screenshot from Lakehurst. We are pleased to invite you to interview with the admissions committee. Beneath it, she had written, I got an interview. I know things are weird, but can you please help me prepare? You know what they're going to ask. I stared at the message until Priya passed me in the hall. Good news or bad? She asked. My sister got an interview. That sounds good. It is. She waited. I typed, I'm happy for you. I can meet for coffee as your sister. I'm not writing answers or coaching you. Lila responded almost immediately. What does meeting as my sister even mean? I wrote, it means you buy your own coffee. 3 dots appeared. Then, Saturday. I was scheduled at the hotel from 3 in the afternoon until 7 the next morning. Sunday, I wrote, 1 hour. She sent a coffee cup emoji and a heart. I put the phone away, unsettled by how much the heart still mattered. The heart mattered enough that I nearly wrote one back. I didn't. Saturday's shift began with a bus tour arriving 3 hours early and ended with a naked man asleep in the 4th floor vending alcove. He was wearing socks, which somehow made the situation feel more deliberate. At 6:30 Sunday morning, my manager appeared carrying a fresh coffee and the expression of someone who had slept indoors on purpose. How was the night? Room 418 believes pants are a government overreach. Again? I stared at him. He sipped his coffee. I'll handle it. Darren was right to quit. I'm not discussing unionization before breakfast. I clocked out at 7:03. My car shuddered when I merged onto the highway, and I stayed in the right lane with both hands on the wheel. Luis had said 2 paychecks. I had received 1, but it had gone to everything except tires. At home, I set 3 alarms for 10 and lay down without taking off my hotel polo. When the first alarm rang, I turned it off inside a dream. The second joined a fire drill occurring in the same dream. The third finally woke me because I had labeled it, Get Up or Leela Wins. I arrived at the coffee shop at 11:06 with my hair damp and my shirt buttoned wrong beneath a cardigan. Lila was already at a table. She had a notebook, 2 pens, and a printed copy of her application. There were colored tabs sticking out of the pages. I stopped beside the chair. What is that? My application. I said coffee. We're at coffee. You brought office supplies. I bring a purse, Mara. Things live in it. The printed application lives in your purse? Today it does. I sat down. A paper cup waited in front of me. Dark roast, she said. 2 cream, no sugar. I said you buy your own coffee. I did. I also bought yours. That is suspiciously considerate. I can take it back. I put my hand around the cup. Let's not be reckless. She smiled, then looked at the notebook. No coaching, I said. I know. You opened to a page titled Interview Questions. Her hand covered the heading. That could be anything. It's followed by Why Lakehurst? Maybe I'm considering vacation destinations. I waited. Fine. She closed the notebook. No coaching. For a minute, we drank coffee and watched a man near the window conduct a video meeting without headphones. He was discussing inventory while a blender screamed behind him. Lila picked at the cardboard sleeve on her cup. Do you want to know what I changed? She asked. About the essay? I deleted the first line. I looked at her. The independence thing, she said. I deleted it after we talked. Why? Because I couldn't read it without hearing your voice. Which version of my voice? The one that makes everything sound like evidence. That's just my voice. No, you have categories. There's regular Mara, customer service Mara, and prosecutor Mara. I have counselor Mara now. That's terrifying. I smiled before I could stop myself. She took a folded page from inside the application and slid it across the table. I rewrote the opening. I'm not proofreading. I'm not asking you to. You don't have to touch it. The page stopped near my elbow. I didn't pick it up, but I could read the first paragraph upside down. It began with a patient at the dental office who apologized before admitting she was afraid. Lila had written that she recognized the impulse to disguise need as inconvenience because she had spent years doing the same thing. It was better than the first opening. "You got the interview without me," I said. She shrugged, but her mouth changed. "Apparently. That's good." "Is it?" "Yes." "You seem disappointed. I'm relieved." "Why?" "Because maybe we can stop pretending your life falls apart every time I don't fix a sentence." Her fingers tightened around the cup. "I never said that. You said refusing to proofread would blow up your application." "I was panicking. So was Mom. Don't do that." "What?" "Make me sound like her. You called me cruel because I wouldn't edit your essay, hours after finding out my money paid your rent." "I didn't know what else to say." "You could have said you'd help repay it." "I did." "You offered $100, then spent it. My insurance payment came out. Those automatic payments are famously unpredictable." She looked toward the window. "I get paid this Friday." "Okay, I can give you $100 then." "Okay." "You keep saying, okay, like you don't believe me." "I believe you intend to." Her head turned back. "That's such a mean little sentence. It's an accurate little sentence. I'm sitting here trying to make this better. With coffee. You kept Mom's soup." I blinked. "Did she tell you that?" "She said she brought groceries and you acted like she'd poisoned them." "I ate the soup." "I know. That's my point. You'll take things and then make people feel disgusting for giving them." My hand went still on the cup. Lila seemed surprised by her own words. She looked down immediately. "I paid for that soup with $4,800, I said. "I know. Do you?" "Yes." "No, you know a number. You don't know what it was for. You said the car and school. It was supposed to cover my placement year, gas, books, a laptop, fewer hotel shifts so I could work 3 unpaid days every week without ruining myself. You think I don't understand working. I think when your life doesn't add up, someone changes the math." Her eyes filled. Lila hated crying in public, which meant she became angry whenever it threatened. "You make it sound like I enjoy this." "I don't think you enjoy it." "Then what do you think?" "I think you don't look too closely at who pays." She wiped beneath one eye with her thumb. "I knew Mom didn't have savings," she said. The video meeting man laughed loudly at something no one else could hear. "What?" I asked. "When she said she had it covered, I knew it probably wasn't savings. Did you know it was mine?" "No. But you knew something was wrong. I knew she couldn't afford it. And you didn't ask." Lila's eyes stayed on the table. I was scared she'd change her mind. The honesty of it hurt worse than another excuse. "My landlord had taped the notice to my door," she said, "not slid it under. Taped it at eye level where everyone in the hall could see. I came home from work, and Mrs. Alvarado across the hall was pretending not to look at it. Why didn't you tell me before it got that far? Because you would have given me a plan. You needed one. I needed money. At least you know the difference." She looked up. "That's why I didn't call you." It was not an accusation exactly, but it found the place one would have landed. "I was already embarrassed," she continued. "I knew you'd ask for my bank statements and my work schedule and tell me to move, and you'd be right. You're always right after something has gone wrong." "I'm not always right." "Name a time." "I dated Eric. That was 4 years ago, and you made a spreadsheet before breaking up with him. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a pros and cons list. It had formulas. One formula." Despite herself, Lila laughed. It turned into a sniff, and she reached for a napkin. "I should have asked where the money came from," she said. I knew not asking made it easier. It was the closest thing to a real apology I had received. "Thank you for saying that. I'm sorry." I nodded. She waited. "Are we okay?" "No." Her face dropped. "But this is better than yesterday." That sounds like something Dr. Park would say. "You don't know Dr. Park. You've mentioned her 6 times. I have not. You imitate her voice. I do not." Lila sat straighter and lowered her voice. "People rarely hand us a single cause. They bring groceries." I stared at her. That was disturbingly good. "You texted it to the family group. I had forgotten. I checked my phone and found the message from 3 days earlier. Dad had responded with a shopping cart emoji. Mom had not responded. Lila opened her notebook again but kept it turned toward herself. Can I ask one thing? Not if it's an interview question. What if they ask about a time I failed? They will. That was not coaching. That was a prediction. You have times to choose from. Thank you. Pick one you can discuss honestly. She held her pen but didn't write. Will talking about the certificate program make me look flaky? The medical billing one? She nodded. You quit because you hated it. I quit because the instructor was terrible. You hated the work before you met the instructor. What would Counselor Mara say? That you should answer your own question. That's regular Mara. Counselor Mara charges by the hour. Lila smiled. There you are. I hated how good it felt. We stayed for 58 minutes. I did not review her answers, but we talked about the dental office, the entrance exam, and why she wanted counseling rather than another program that promised stable income in 12 months. She said, because when somebody's scared, I don't think they're annoying. I almost told her that was not always true. Instead, I said, that's worth remembering. At noon, I stood. 1 hour, I said. I didn't ask you to stay. That was growth. Outside, Lila followed me to my car. She frowned when I started it, and the steering wheel trembled. What's that? Tires. Are they safe? Safe is a spectrum. Mara, I'm replacing them. When? After 2 paychecks. She looked guilty, then defensive about looking guilty. I'll give you the 100 Friday. I said okay. This time, say it like you believe me. I'll believe the deposit. She folded her arms. Prosecutor Mara. I drove home, slept for 4 hours, and returned to the hotel for a 6 to midnight shift someone had dropped. When I got back to my apartment, I set my alarms and put the phone on the charger. At 6:40 Monday morning, I woke to sunlight. My phone was black. The charger had come loose from the wall. I dressed in 4 minutes, brushed my teeth at red lights with a dry toothbrush, and drove fast enough for the steering wheel to shake violently. Traffic stopped near the stadium. At 8:12, I rushed through Harbor's front door. Dr. Park was standing at reception. She looked at the clock, then at me. I'm sorry, I said. My alarm didn't. I don't need the story. It won't happen again. That is a promise people make when they're frightened by the first consequence. My face burned. She handed me a folder. Your intake starts in 3 minutes. Go breathe somewhere the client can't see you. I took the folder. As I turned away, she said, Mara. I looked back. 1 late arrival is a mistake. 2 is information. I nodded and went to make sure my hands had stopped shaking. I locked myself in the staff restroom and ran cold water over my wrists. The face in the mirror looked like mine after a long hotel shift. Pale, over-alert, mascara under one eye. I dampened a paper towel and fixed what I could. On the other side of the wall, the waiting room door opened. I checked the folder. My client's name was Andrea Wallace, 46, referred by her primary care doctor for insomnia and anxiety after her mother's death. That was all I knew. 3 minutes later, Priya and I walked into the consultation room together. Andrea sat at the edge of the sofa with her purse in her lap. She wore a red blazer over a t-shirt and kept pulling the sleeves down over her hands. Are you the student? She asked me. Yes. You look young. I'm 27. I have yogurt older than that. Priya coughed into her fist. Andrea's mouth twitched. Sorry. I get sarcastic when I'm nervous. I get formal when I'm nervous, I said. We should be interesting. That got a real smile. For the first 10 minutes, my heartbeat was so loud I thought it might count as a third participant. Then Andrea began talking about her mother's house. She and her brother had spent 3 weekends sorting closets, and every object had become an argument. He wanted to rent a dumpster. Andrea wanted to touch everything first. She kept twist ties, Andrea said. Hundreds of them, in a butter cookie tin. What did you do with them? I asked. They're in my garage. We all sat with that. Andrea laughed, then covered her mouth because the laugh had turned into a sob. After the intake, Priya closed the door and looked at me. You stopped shaking. I was shaking? Your clipboard was conducting. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing to me. How do you think it went? I talked too quickly at first. You did. I asked one question with 3 questions hiding inside it. You did. I didn't tell her what the twist ties meant. Priya smiled. You didn't. It felt like passing an exam no one had told me I was taking. Dr. Park didn't mention my lateness again that day. That almost made it worse. I arrived 37 minutes early on Wednesday and sat in my car until the building opened. At 8:05, Mom texted, "Can you call when you have a minute? Nothing bad." In our family, nothing bad usually meant the bad thing had not yet selected a spokesperson. I called during lunch. What happened? Nothing happened. Then why are we on the phone? Your father has some insurance forms from work. The language is ridiculous. Okay. He doesn't understand whether the supplemental disability coverage is worth it. He should ask human resources. You know how those people are. I don't, actually. They'll just tell him to read the packet. That's what the packet is for. Mom sighed. Could you look at it? I opened my lunch container. 2 hard-boiled eggs rolled into each other. No. She went silent. Not an angry silence. A confused one. No, you don't have time today. No, I'm not reviewing Dad's insurance forms. But you're good at forms. I'm good at figuring things out because I have to figure out my own things. This isn't about Lila. I know. Then why are you making it about that? I'm not. I'm eating lunch at my placement. It would take 20 minutes. Then Dad can spend 20 minutes. He gets frustrated by that language. So do I. You don't. The certainty made me put down my fork. Mom, I'm not the person who understands everything. I'm the person who stays with it after I stop understanding. That sounds like something from counseling. It's something from being tired. She lowered her voice. Your father has done a lot for you. Yes. He paid your car insurance through college. I can be grateful and still not read the forms. You never used to keep score like this. I looked at the balance sheet folded inside my planner. Every repayment, every expense, every shift. She was right. I had started keeping score because they had taken something large enough to require one. Dad can call me himself if he wants help, I said. I'm not doing assignments passed through you. Assignments. That's what this feels like. Fine. She hung up, then texted 10 minutes later. Sent another $70. I checked. The transfer was there. Remaining balance $4,460, I wrote back. No thumbs up this time. Dad called that evening while I was driving home. Your mother says I'm no longer allowed to ask you questions. That sounds exactly like something Mom would hear when nobody said it. He laughed, which helped. I figured out the form, he said. Good. The supplemental coverage is a ripoff. How do you know? I called the number. What kind of dark magic is that? They connected me to a very condescending man named Peter. I'm proud of you. Don't be a smartass. There was affection in it. For a moment, we sounded normal. Then Dad said, Your mother feels like you're teaching us a lesson. I don't have time to teach anyone. She doesn't know how to talk to you. She could start with, I'll repay you by this date. She gave you money twice. She gave me $200 that day and $70 this week. She took $4,800. I know the arithmetic. Do you? The warmth left his voice. I'm trying to talk to my daughter, not negotiate a settlement. I'm your daughter when you need me to soften. I'm a resource when someone needs something. That is not how I see you. Then why did you call? He didn't answer quickly enough. I closed my eyes for 1 second at a red light. Mom told you I wouldn't read the forms, I said. I handled the forms. After she sent me to handle them, she asked for help. Families ask for help. They don't take it out of each other's bank accounts. We're not discussing that again. I'm discussing it until the money is back. The light changed. A horn sounded behind me. I have to drive, I said, then drive. Dad ended the call. Friday morning, $100 appeared in my new account. The memo said I would. I laughed out loud in the harbor parking lot. I texted Lila, received, thank you. Remaining balance $4,360. She sent, "You're welcome, Bank of Mara." Then, a minute later, "Sorry, that was bitchy." I replied, "Accurate little sentence." She sent a laughing face. The exchange should not have made me feel as hopeful as it did. That afternoon, Dr. Park assigned me my first ongoing client under supervision. Renee, the bartender from my practice intake, had asked to return and said she was comfortable seeing an intern. "Why me?" I asked. Dr. Park looked over her glasses. "Would you like me to call and challenge her judgment?" "No. You connected with her. Try not to make being chosen into a problem." My chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with panic. I had wanted this for so long that receiving it felt dangerous. "Thank you," I said. "You will thank me less after documentation." She was right. I stayed 40 minutes late writing the session note, deleting every sentence that sounded like a graduate student trying to impress an invisible professor. At 6, I reached my car and found the front passenger tire visibly low. I drove to a gas station and crouched beside the air pump in my good pants. The machine cost $2 and accepted only cards. My card declined twice, not because the account was empty, but because the machine was broken. I laughed hard enough that a man filling his truck asked if I needed help. He had a portable compressor. While it rattled beside my wheel, he stood with his arms folded and said, "Tires dry rotted." "I know. Need to replace both fronts." "I know. Soon. I have been informed. You don't have to get mad. I'm not mad at you." He looked unconvinced. I drove directly to Rivera Auto. Luis was closing the garage. "2 paychecks," he said when he saw the tire. "I know. How many have happened?" "Technically 2. "Technically. 1 belonged to my landlord." He crouched, inspected the sidewall, and shook his head. "You can't keep driving highway on this." "How much?" "For both fronts, mounted and balanced, $460. I pictured my checking balance, the gas I still needed, and my credit card. "Can you do it tomorrow?" "8. I had to be at the hotel by 3. I nodded. The tires went on the credit card too. When I told Lila, she offered to send another $50. I said no because she had already made the payment she promised, and because accepting immediately felt too much like proving Mom right about families helping. "Are you sure?" she asked. "No, but keep it." "Why?" "Because if you send it, you'll need something before payday." "That is possible. And then Mom will call me." "That is extremely possible." She laughed. "Interview is Thursday. At Lakehurst? 10 in the morning. You'll be good. You don't know that. You got there without my commas. Barely." We talked for 12 minutes. She did not ask me to practice answers. I did not volunteer. On Wednesday night, I was asleep by 9 for the first time in weeks when Mom's call woke me. I answered disoriented. "What?" "Lila's car won't start." I looked at the clock. 10:48. Then she needs a mechanic. She needs to get to the interview tomorrow. My eyes closed again. "Call Dad. He has a sales presentation at 9. He can't miss it." "You don't work until noon." "I open the library tomorrow. Carol's out. Then Lila can take a rideshare. It's $70 each way." "That's expensive. You know she doesn't have it. Then you can pay." Mom went quiet. I sat up. "Mara, this interview could determine her entire future. My entire future starts at 8 tomorrow, too. You don't have placement Thursdays. I have supervision at 9, and I worked until midnight yesterday. I have class reading, laundry, a life. Lakehurst is only 40 minutes from you. Without traffic, you could take her and attend supervision from your car." "No." The word arrived calmly. No speech behind it. No alternative. Mom seemed not to recognize it. "What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm not driving Lila to the interview. After everything we've done to get her this far, I didn't agree to any of that. She will miss it. Then she'll have to solve it. You know she's not good in a crisis. She's applying to become a counselor. That is a cheap shot. It's an observation." Mom's breath sharpened. "You are enjoying this." That woke me fully. "What? You're enjoying finally having a reason to punish her." I got out of bed and walked to the kitchen, though there was nowhere I needed to go. I want Lila to make the interview, then help her. No, wanting something for her does not make it my job. Family shouldn't talk like that. Family shouldn't use each other's scholarships for rent. Will you ever let me forget that? You don't get to forget it before I recover from it." She hung up. Lila called 30 seconds later. I answered with, "Mom got to you. She called me. I didn't ask her to call you. Do you need a ride?" "I did. Jen from work is taking me." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "Oh." She moved her first 2 patients and said I can buy her lunch. That was fast. I solved it before Mom even called you. She just thought Jen would cancel. Will she? No. Then why are we talking? Lila was quiet. "Because I wanted you to know you didn't leave me stranded," she said. On the counter, the yellow legal pad sat beneath a vase, holding 3 dead roses. "I didn't think I did," I said. But after we hung up, I stood there a long time, realizing some part of me had. The next morning, Mom sent me a photograph of the sunrise. No caption, just pink clouds above the neighboring roof line and the black edge of her bedroom window. I saved the picture. Then I joined supervision from my kitchen table. Dr. Park appeared on screen in her office beside the dead succulent. She looked at my face for 2 seconds. "You're tired. I'm prepared. Those are not opposites." I reviewed Renee's intake, wrote my questions, and read the articles you sent. "You're very prepared." The way she said it made preparation sound like a rash. For the next 40 minutes, we discussed Renee's tendency to make jokes whenever she approached the reason she had returned to a relationship she described as bad for the furniture and worse for me. I had ideas. Too many, according to Dr. Park. "You're building a map before Renee tells you where she wants to go," she said. "I don't want to miss something important. What happens if you do?" I could waste her time. Or she could leave. Or I could be bad at this. There it was, sitting in the middle of my kitchen without permission. Dr. Park leaned back. "You know what makes new counselors exhausting? Their optimism, their desire to be necessary." I stopped writing. "If the client improves, they want to believe it was because of them," she said. "If the client struggles, they want to believe they should have prevented it. Both are forms of vanity. That feels harsh. It is harsh. It is also useful." My phone lit up beside the laptop. "Lila, here." Jen made me listen to motivational 80s music the whole way. A photograph followed. She stood beneath the Lakehurst College sign wearing my charcoal blazer. I had forgotten she still had it. She looked nervous and hopeful, her hair smooth, her smile uneven. Jen's thumb covered the corner of the camera. I sent back, "You look good. The blazer is theft." Lila replied, "Family." I stared at the word. Then another message appeared. Too soon? A laugh escaped me. Dr. Park raised an eyebrow. "My sister has an interview. The one who paid rent with your scholarship?" I had not told her that. Then I remembered filling out the emergency contact update and explaining why my mother could no longer access anything financial. She didn't know where the money came from, I said. Dr. Park waited. "I feel like that distinction matters. It matters to you. That sounds like a trap. I don't have enough energy to trap interns before 10. After supervision, I spent the morning doing laundry, reading case material, and trying not to calculate what $70 payments would look like over a year. At 11:40, Lila called. "I'm alive," she said. "How was it?" "Either incredible or a complete disaster. Useful range." One interviewer kept nodding, but maybe she had neck weakness. What did they ask? Why counseling? A time I failed. How I manage stress. What did you say to that? I said I seek support. I groaned. Relax. I also said I'm learning the difference between support and expecting someone else to remove consequences. I sat down at the kitchen table. You said that? Not exactly like that. I made it sound academic. Of course. They asked about the medical billing program. And I said I chose it because I was afraid of committing to a longer degree, then blamed the program when fear wasn't enough to make me like the work. That's honest. It was awful. Honesty often has terrible branding." She laughed. "Jen says we're getting pancakes. You should." There was a pause. "I'm sorry Mom called you," Lila said. "Me too. She thinks every problem has one correct person for the job. And I'm transportation? You're logistics. What are you?" she considered. "An active emergency." That was fast. I've had years. The joke landed, but neither of us laughed immediately. "I'm trying not to be," she added. "I know. This time I meant it." Mom's next $70 payment arrived Friday. I updated the balance and received no response. Dad sent $300 the following Monday with the memo, "Commission, not imaginary." I called him. "You didn't have to prove a point in the memo. I'm a salesman. Proving points is how I eat." Did this come from the commission Mom kept mentioning? Part of it. "Do you need it for the mortgage?" "The mortgage is paid." "What about your insurance?" "Peter and I handled it." I smiled. "Thank you." "I wish you'd stop making this feel like debt collection. It is debt collection. You know what I mean?" "I don't think I do." Dad's chair squeaked on his end. He was probably in his home office, which was technically the corner of the den behind a folding screen Mom had bought during what she called her minimalist phase. "I don't like owing my daughter money," he said. "I don't like being owed money by my parents. That's not the order things are supposed to happen. No, your mother made a bad call. Mom made the transfer. Both of you asked me to absorb it. I asked you to understand the situation. You asked me not to make it ugly. I was trying to protect the family." "From what?" He sighed. "From this." This meant the totals, the missed calls. Mom's sunrise instead of an apology. Dad figuring out his own forms. Lila finding a ride. "This was already here," I said. "We're just not covering it with me anymore." He was quiet. Then he said, "Your mother misses you. I miss her too. Call her. She can call me without asking me to do something. That isn't fair. She checks on you. She checks whether I've eaten because food is something she can fix. You sound like a counselor. That's becoming an insult in this family." Dad laughed softly. "You're good at it, aren't you?" The question surprised me. I think I could be. I always thought so. That was almost enough to end the call well. Then he said, "Lila too." I closed my eyes. "Dad." "What?" "I'm saying you both have the heart for it. Can I have one sentence that doesn't become about Lila? I did not make it about her. You added her to a compliment you gave me, because I'm proud of both my daughters. Then tell us separately." He went silent. I regretted the sentence, but I didn't take it back. At Harbor, Renee began talking about the practical parts of leaving the relationship she kept returning to. Not dramatic parts. The microwave was hers, but the dishes were mostly his. Their phone plan was shared. The streaming passwords belonged to her, which she found strangely satisfying. "I know this sounds stupid," she said. "It sounds detailed. Same thing. It isn't." She looked at me for a long moment. "Do you always know that? Know what? Which things are stupid and which things are detailed?" "No. You answer fast. I'm working on that." Renee smiled. "At least you admit it." Afterward, Dr. Park reviewed my note and crossed out 3 sentences. "You document like you're afraid someone will accuse you of not being there," she said. "Aren't notes supposed to be thorough?" "Thorough is not the same as proving your worth. I feel like we have this conversation a lot. We have the conversation you keep bringing." She handed back the paper. I wanted to dislike her. It would have made her easier to ignore. The hotel schedule for that weekend showed my usual Saturday 3 to 11, followed by overnight until 7. On Sunday afternoon, after I had slept 5 hours, my manager called. "Marisol's sick." "No, I haven't asked yet. You're asking me to cover overnight. There's an extra $1.50 after midnight. I have Harbor Monday. You'd be out at 7. My placement starts at 8. It's 40 minutes away without traffic. Keith is scheduled at 6:30. You could leave when he gets there." Keith had never arrived at 6:30 in the history of time. "I can't," I said. "Okay." My manager sounded disappointed but not angry. He hung up. I stood in my kitchen feeling relieved for almost a full minute. Then I opened my credit card app. The tires and remaining brake repair sat beneath a new interest charge. My checking balance had enough for rent, but the electric bill would pull Tuesday. I had $38 of available credit before the card reached its limit. I called back. Is the shift still open? It's been 47 seconds. I'll do it if I can leave by 6:30. Absolutely. Put that in writing. He texted. Mara approved to leave at 6:30 when Keith arrives. At 6:20 Monday morning, Keith called the hotel. His truck would not start. I told my manager, who was not scheduled until 9. He said he was getting dressed. At 6:50, he texted that traffic was bad. At 7:15, he was 20 minutes away. I stood behind the desk in my harbor clothes, checking out guests while my pulse beat in my jaw. At 7:32, he walked through the lobby carrying coffee. You made it, he said. I'm late. You have 28 minutes. I have a 40-minute drive. He looked genuinely apologetic. I came as fast as I could. I ran to my car. Traffic was already thick. I changed lanes too often, gained nothing, and spent 12 minutes behind a landscaping trailer, moving at the speed of grief. At 8:21, I entered harbor. Dr. Park was in the hallway with Andrea's chart in her hand. She did not look at the clock this time. I called, I said. Reception knew I was coming. Andrea knew you weren't here. My stomach dropped. She's here? She arrived at 7:50. I thought her appointment was 8:30. It is. She likes to be early. Then I still have 9 minutes. That is not the point. I knew that. I was too tired to pretend I didn't. Dr. Park led me into her office and closed the door. I worked overnight, I said before she could speak. My relief didn't show up. Why did you schedule an overnight before placement? I needed the money. That answer explains your decision. It does not change its effect. I know. Do you? Her voice was calm, which made mine feel louder. I'm doing everything I can. No, you are doing everything. That is different. I looked away. Dr. Park pulled a form from a folder. 2 late arrivals in 3 weeks is an attendance concern. I am documenting it. My throat tightened. Is that necessary? Yes. I'm not careless. I didn't say you were. My financial situation changed unexpectedly. And I believe you. If you need to adjust your placement schedule, we can discuss whether another site is available next term. Next term? Harbor cannot build appointments around uncertain arrival times. I'll be here. Mara, listen before you promise. She waited until I met her eyes. One more attendance problem triggers a formal review with your program. That could delay your hours and your graduation. The room became very still. The scholarship conditions flashed through my mind. Maintain enrollment. Complete placement hours. Remain in good standing. Dr. Park's expression softened, but not enough to let me escape the sentence. Go wash your face, she said. Andrea deserves someone who is in the room. In the restroom, I locked the door and gripped the sink. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Mom had sent another photograph. This one was of the yellow roses blooming beside her mailbox. Beautiful, she wrote. I typed, I may lose my placement because I'm working extra shifts to replace the money you took. I stared at the message for 10 seconds. Then I hit send. Mom called before I could put the phone away. I declined it. She called again. I turned the phone off, washed my face, and pressed a cold paper towel beneath my eyes until I no longer looked like I had spent the morning arguing with plumbing. Andrea was waiting in the consultation room. She had brought the butter cookie tin. It sat on the table between us, blue metal with a painting of sugar cookies on the lid. When she opened it, hundreds of twist ties shifted inside with a dry metallic whisper. I thought if I brought them here, I might be able to throw them away afterward, she said. Priya sat in the corner observing. I wondered whether Dr. Park had told her about the attendance warning. Priya's expression gave me nothing. Andrea lifted a yellow twist tie. My mother washed these, she said. If one came off a loaf of bread, she wiped it before putting it away. What do you think she was saving them for? I asked. War, maybe. A shortage of twist ties. She smiled, but I waited. Andrea rolled the wire between her fingers. She grew up with nothing, she said. So nothing was ever nothing to her. My thoughts tried to leave the room. I pictured my scholarship balance, the yellow legal pad, the white envelope marked CAR. I pulled them back. "What is this tin to you?" I asked. "Proof she was scared her whole life. Is that why you kept it?" "I don't know." This time, I let not knowing remain in the room. Andrea began sorting the twist ties by color. We talked while her hands moved. At the end of the session, she threw away 4. Only 4. Then she put the lid back on the tin and took the rest home. Afterward, Priya waited until we were alone. "You okay?" "No." "Do you want advice, food, or silence? Is that an official counseling technique?" "It's an official girlfriend technique. Works on interns, too." Silence. She nodded and stayed beside me for a full minute without speaking. It helped. When I turned my phone on, I had 3 voicemails from Mom, 2 from Dad, and 1 text from Lila. What happened? I answered her first. I was late twice because I'm working extra hotel shifts. 1 more attendance problem could delay graduation. She called immediately. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was busy being told. I mean about the shifts. You knew I was working more." "I thought it was like 2 extra. It's enough." "How much is enough?" "I worked overnight before placement." "Mara, that's insane." "I know." "Then stop." "With what money?" She went quiet. I hated that I had asked. The answer was too obvious, too effective. It turned every conversation into the transfer again. "I can send you more," she said. "You have $43 between checks. I'll figure it out." "No, you'll need rent again, and we'll be back here." "So what are you going to do?" "I'm dropping the Sunday overnight." "What about Saturdays?" "I need Saturdays." "You need sleep." Apparently, everyone in this family got a graduate degree overnight. I'm serious. So am I. She breathed out. "Mom's losing it. She can lose it after 5. "What?" "I'm not answering during placement anymore. That is probably wise." "Tell her that. I'm not getting in the middle." I laughed once. "Sorry," she said. That sounded bad. It sounded familiar. Mom was waiting in the harbor parking lot at 5:10. Her green raincoat was buttoned to her throat even though it wasn't raining. She stood beside my car holding a paper bag. I stopped walking. "You cannot come here. I stayed outside. You cannot wait outside my placement. I didn't know if you'd answer. That doesn't make this okay." She looked toward Harbor's front windows. "Can we talk in your car?" "No." "Mara, please." Dr. Park's car was still parked 2 rows over. I wondered if she could see us from her office. The thought made me feel 14. Mom held out the bag. "Dinner." I didn't take it. "Do you think food is a skeleton key?" "What does that mean?" "It doesn't open every door, I know that." "I brought you dinner because you worked all night. You found that out 3 hours ago, and I have been sick about it for 3 hours." I looked around the parking lot. A client was walking toward the bus stop. Receptionist Kayla was getting into her car. This was not where I wanted my family to become visible. "Get in," I said. We sat in my car with the paper bag between us. Something inside smelled like roasted chicken. Mom's eyes were swollen. "I didn't know you were risking your placement. I told you what the money was for. You said expenses. I said it would let me reduce shifts. I thought you meant you wanted to." The distinction was so perfectly hers that I almost admired it. "You thought rest was optional because I wanted it." "No. I thought if it became difficult, you'd tell us. I've been telling you. You've been giving us totals. Because every time I tell you how I feel, you explain why you did it." She looked down. "I'm sorry," she said. I waited. "I'm sorry I took the money. Not just that I didn't ask, I should never have touched it." The words were plain. No emergency attached, no reference to Lila's landlord. They were the words I had wanted. They did not put anything back. "Thank you," I said. "I'll work more." "You're already working." "I'll add Sundays." "No." "Then what do you want?" "I want you to repay what you can without creating another emergency for me to solve." "I wouldn't." "You would. If you got sick from working 7 days, Dad would call me." She gave a weak laugh, then covered her mouth. I need you to understand something, I said. I'm not going to risk Harbor. I'm dropping any hotel shift that touches a placement day. That means repayment may be slower, and I'm going to be angry about that. But I'm not sacrificing the degree to replace money taken from the degree. Mom nodded. And you can't come here again unless I invite you. I understand. She wiped under one eye. Will you take the chicken? Yes. Good. It'll leak. That was the closest we came to hugging. I ate the chicken at home and called my hotel manager. He complained about the Sunday overnight for 6 minutes, then gave it to a new employee named Paige, who'd been asking for hours. You're still doing Saturday doubles? He asked. Yes. You college people are complicated. I'm in graduate school. That's more college. I slept 11 hours that night. On Friday, I arrived at Harbor at 7:42. Dr. Park watched me hang my coat. You look less haunted, she said. I declined a shift. Difficult? Yes, good. Why is everything difficult good to you? Easy things rarely require supervision. She gave me Andrea's note to revise. Nothing more was said about attendance, but the warning remained inside me like a second clock. Lila received her acceptance email Monday evening. She called me screaming. I held the phone away until the sound became words. I got in. Mara, I got in. I sat down on the edge of my bed. You got in. I actually got in. I knew you could. No, you didn't. I strongly suspected. She laughed and cried at the same time. I cried too, though quietly enough that she didn't notice. Lakehurst wanted a deposit within 3 weeks. Classes began in January. The accelerated program would take 18 months. How's the funding? I asked. They offered some. How much is some? I'm still reading. The answer came the next day. The scholarship covered roughly a third of tuition. Federal loans could cover most of the remainder, but not the full cost of fees, transportation, and living expenses if Lila reduced her work hours as the program recommended. Mom scheduled dinner for Thursday to celebrate. I almost declined. Then Lila texted, "Please come. I want one thing to be happy before we turn it into math." I went. Mom cooked pot roast, Dad opened a bottle of wine, and Lila brought a folder labeled Lakehurst. We toasted her with glasses that didn't match. For the first part of dinner, nobody mentioned money. Dad asked about Harbor. Mom told a story about a library patron who returned a cookbook with dried spaghetti inside. Lila described the interviewer with possible neck weakness. Then Mom cleared the plates and placed a sheet of paper on the table. I made some preliminary numbers, she said. Lila closed her eyes. Mom, we have to be realistic. The paper contained columns: tuition, loans, rent, transportation, Dad's possible commission, Mom's extra library hours. At the bottom was a line labeled family support. No amount had been written beside it. I knew before she spoke. If everyone pulls together, Mom said, we can close the gap. Dad leaned back in his chair. Denise. What? We're discussing options. Lila stared at the page. Mom turned to me. Once your placement schedule settles, maybe you could pick up some private editing work. You're good at that. Or help Lila with coursework so she doesn't have to reduce her job quite as much. I set down my glass. You still owe me $4,360. Mom's face tightened. This is separate. No, it isn't. We aren't asking for money tonight. You put family support on a budget and looked at me. I said editing. That is work. For your sister. Still work. Lila spoke quietly. I didn't ask her to do that. Mom waved a hand. Nobody is assigning anything. We're brainstorming. You transferred my scholarship without asking. I'm not waiting to see what brainstorming means in this family. Dad rubbed his forehead. Can we not do this during a celebration? This is what the celebration became. Mom's chair scraped back. Fine. Say what you want. I looked at Lila. She looked frightened, but she didn't look away. I will not pay toward this program, I said. I will not edit assignments, write applications, cover rent, or solve transportation. If the numbers don't work, Lila can defer, work more, find a roommate, choose a cheaper place, or decline. Mom's eyes filled with anger. You want her to fail? No. You resent that she got in without your help, and now you want to prove she can't do it alone. The sentence hit something tender, because part of it was possible. I had enjoyed being the one who could improve Lila's sentences. I had enjoyed being called first. Indispensable was exhausting, but it was also a seat no one else could take. Before I could answer, Lila folded the budget sheet in half. No, she said. Mom looked at her. Lila's voice shook, but she kept going. She doesn't want me to fail. Then what is this? Lila pressed both palms against the folded paper. She wants my life to stop costing her. Mom looked at Lila as if she had spoken in a language no one had taught her. That is not fair to you, she said. What isn't? Taking responsibility for something you didn't do. Lila's hands remained flat on the folded budget. I took the rent. You didn't know where it came from. I knew not to ask. Mom turned toward me. You put that in her head. No, Lila said. She didn't. Dad reached for the wine bottle, seemed to reconsider, and placed both hands on the table. We're all getting ahead of ourselves, he said. The deposit isn't due for 3 weeks. We have time to look at loans. I already looked, Mom replied. You looked for 40 minutes and made a chart that includes imaginary labor from Mara. I did not write Mara's name. You left a blank line labeled family. I am family too. Then put your name on it. Mom's face flushed. This was unfamiliar territory. Dad usually translated Mom's panic into softer language, then asked everyone else to cooperate with the translation. Seeing him refuse felt less like victory than watching a familiar chair collapse. I was trying to keep us from wasting an opportunity, Mom said. Lila picked up the paper and tore it in half. Mom gasped. I spent all afternoon on that. I'm not doing this. Doing what? Getting into a program I can't afford and making it everybody else's emergency. You can afford it with help. That's the same sentence. Loans are normal, Lila. I know. I'm not talking about the loans. She tore the halves again. 4 rectangles fell onto the table between the pot roast and the salt. Mom stared at them. You're upset. Don't make a decision while you're upset. You made a $4,800 decision while you were upset. Dad whispered, Jesus. Mom pushed away from the table. I apologized for that. To Mara. I was supposed to apologize to you for keeping you housed? You were supposed to let me be scared long enough to make my own decision. You would have lost the apartment. Maybe. You would have missed your interview. Jen drove me because I made sure, no, Mom. Jen drove me because I asked. Lila's voice cracked. She looked angry at it. Mom stood. I am not going to sit here and be attacked for helping my own daughters. She carried 2 plates into the kitchen. The cabinet doors opened and closed with increasing force. Dad looked at the torn budget. Well, he said, that celebration went efficiently. Lila gave a wet laugh. I stood. I should go. Please don't, Dad said. Mom called from the kitchen. Let her. She's made her point. I didn't come here to make a point. No, you came here with a balance due. I followed her into the kitchen. She was scraping food into the garbage disposal so aggressively that gravy had splashed onto the window above the sink. You brought out the budget, I said. I thought you might have ideas. You had ideas for me. You know what? Yes. I thought you might want to help your sister get an education. I do want to help her by telling her to defer, by not pretending the numbers work. She has spent her whole life feeling like you think you're better than her. Behind me, the dining room went quiet. I lowered my voice. That is not the conversation we were having. It is always the conversation. You walk into a room already knowing what everyone should have done. Then why do you ask me to fix everything? Because you like it. The answer came too quickly to be invented. Mom turned from the sink. Her eyes were furious and exhausted. You like being the competent one, she said. You like Lila needing you because it proves you made better choices. I wanted to deny it. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Mom saw that. The anger in her face faltered. I'm not saying we haven't relied on you too much, she said, but don't act like you never got anything from it. Lila appeared in the doorway. Stop, she said. Mom turned back to the sink. Everyone wants me to stop. I'm leaving, I said. Dad offered to walk me out. I told him not to. Lila followed anyway. The night was cold enough that our breath showed beneath the porch light. I crossed the driveway to my car, but she caught my sleeve before I opened the door. Do you think she's right? About what? You liking that I need you. I don't know. That means yes. It means I don't know. Lila shoved her hands into her coat pockets. You always know. Apparently not. Inside the house, a shadow moved past the front curtains. I leaned against my car. When Eric broke up with me, I said, Mom called every day for a week. I remember. By the second week, she called because you needed help comparing car loans. Lila looked down. I was relieved, I said. Not about the loans. I was relieved to have something useful to do. Nobody asked if I was still sad because I was helping you, and I liked that. That's depressing. Yes. You could have said no. I know. So why didn't you? Because when people need me, I know where I stand. Lila looked at me for a long time. That doesn't sound like you think you're better than me. It's not better. No, it's much weirder. I laughed. She moved closer to the car and rubbed a spot on the roof with her thumb. I don't want to defer, she said. I know. What if they don't let me start later? Ask. What if I lose the scholarship? Ask. What if the answer is bad? Then it's bad. I hate this version of you. This version has excellent breaks. She looked toward the house. Mom is going to say, you talked me into it. Probably. Are you going to care? Yes. That's inconvenient. Very. She nodded to herself. I'll call Lakehurst tomorrow. I drove home without turning on the radio. Mom's words traveled with me. You like it? At my apartment, I opened my laptop and looked at the family group text. Lila had posted her acceptance screenshot earlier. Mom had added 12 hearts. Dad had written, never doubted you. I had written, proud of you. All of it was true. I slept badly anyway. Lakehurst allowed deferrals, but Lila had to submit a written request and give up her place in the accelerated January cohort. She could enter the standard fall cohort 8 months later if she maintained her admission status. Her scholarship would be reconsidered with the next funding cycle, not guaranteed. Mom called me the minute Lila told her, Are you happy now? I was walking from the harbor parking lot toward the entrance. I stopped but did not turn back. No, she gave up the accelerated program. She deferred. She might lose the funding. I know. You put all those fears in her head. The tuition statement put them there. You could have helped. Not with $40,000. You could have helped her stay organized, edit papers, find grants. I'm hanging up. Of course you are. I'm entering placement. You cannot use my work day for this. You always have a reason not to talk now. Yes, sometimes the reason is that I don't want to be yelled at. I ended the call and turned off my phone. At lunch, I saw 6 missed calls. I left them unanswered. That evening, Lila texted that she had officially submitted the deferral form. I wrote, How do you feel? She responded, like I threw up on my own future. Then, also relieved. Her manager at the dental office offered her full-time hours beginning the next schedule. Jen knew a woman looking for a roommate in a 2-bedroom apartment 10 minutes from the office. The rent would be $700 less than Lila's current place, but the room was smaller and the bathroom had pink tile. Lila sent me photographs. Be honest, she wrote. Is this shower haunted? The shower curtain had faded blue dolphins. I typed, The dolphins have seen things. That is not helpful. You're asking the wrong sister. Counselor Mara believes every shower deserves non-judgmental curiosity. She called me. Come see it with me. I hesitated. Not to decide, she added quickly. Just come. The apartment belonged to a 31-year-old physical therapist named Brooke, who wore purple glasses and owned enough houseplants to require a watering schedule. The available room faced an alley and fit a full bed, dresser, and not much else. Lila walked the perimeter with her arms folded. My closet is bigger. Your closet costs $700 a month, I said. I know. Brooke showed us cabinet space in the kitchen, explained the utility split, and introduced a cleaning schedule without apology. Lila asked actual questions: parking, guests, lease length, quiet hours. I stayed beside the snake plant and said nothing. Outside, she looked at me. Well, you asked good questions. About the apartment. You have the information. She groaned. I brought you for a reason, which was, I don't know, to tell me if I'm making a mistake. Do you like Brooke? Yes. Can you afford it? Yes. Can you survive the dolphins? Emotionally unclear. Then decide. Lila studied my face. You really aren't going to tell me. I'm trying not to. Does it hurt? A little. She signed the lease 2 days later. Mom refused to help her move. She said she was working, though the library schedule posted online showed her shift ended at noon. Dad rented a van. Jen brought boxes from the dental office. Brooke labeled cabinet shelves. I arrived with packing tape and immediately had to stop myself from reorganizing the entire move. Lila had put books in a box marked bathroom and cleaning supplies in a suitcase. Why? I asked. The boxes unfolded faster than I expected. That does not answer anything. Are you here as logistics or as my sister? I looked at the crooked stack of boxes. My sister, then Carrie the lamp. We moved her in 6 hours. At the end, Dad stood in the pink bathroom holding the dolphin curtain. I like it, he said. You would, Lila replied. You eat college ketchup. Dad looked at me and we both laughed. Mom sent Lila a text that evening. Hope you're satisfied. Lila showed it to me, then turned her phone face down. I am, she said, though she started crying a minute later. I sat beside her on the floor of the new room. The bed had not been assembled yet, so we leaned against the wall. I keep waiting for you to say this is better, she said. It's cheaper. Mara, it's also better. She wiped her face. Thank you. For what? For not saying it first. My own lease ended in December. I had planned to renew, but the commute to Harbor was consuming gas, time, and whatever patience the hotel had left me. Priya mentioned that a woman in her building was renting a furnished room after her previous roommate moved. The building was 12 minutes from Harbor. The room was small, the kitchen was shared, and the rent was $200 less than my apartment. When I told Mom I was going to see it, she said, "You could move home for free." We were speaking again, but only in short calls with careful exits. Home is farther from Harbor. You could save much more. I'd pay in other ways. Silence. That was unnecessary, she said. It was honest. You make this house sound terrible. It isn't terrible. Then why won't you come back? Because I knew exactly what would happen. Dad's forms would appear beside my cereal. Lila's crises would arrive through Mom, even from the pink bathroom. My closed bedroom door would become evidence of attitude. I need somewhere my time belongs to me, I said. Mom breathed quietly into the phone. I don't know when you started feeling like it didn't. I looked at the balance sheet on my table, the debt falling in small, uneven amounts. I don't either, I said. That's part of the problem. The room near Harbor had one narrow window, beige carpet, and a dresser that smelled faintly of cedar chips. When I opened the closet, 3 empty wire hangers swung together with a noise like tiny applause. The woman renting it was named Celeste. She worked nights in a hospital laboratory and wore a sweatshirt that said, "Introverted but willing to discuss blood." I sleep from 9 in the morning until 4, she said. I don't care if you cook, but the blender and I have a legal separation during those hours. I don't own a blender. You're already my favorite applicant. The apartment was on the 2nd floor of a brick building with unreliable hallway lighting and a laundry room that accepted quarters, despite it being the modern era. The kitchen counters were chipped. The bathroom sink had separate hot and cold faucets, which meant washing your face involved choosing a temperature and suffering for it. It was 12 minutes from Harbor. I signed the rental agreement. Moving out of my apartment was easier than I expected because most of my furniture had been acquired from curbs, relatives, or people who used the phrase, must pick up tonight. Celeste's place was furnished, so I sold the table with the wobbly chairs for $30 to a college student who tested each chair and said, "They have character. That's what people say before furniture injures them." He bought them anyway. Dad offered his truck. Lila took a day off from the dental office. Mom said she would check her schedule, then did not mention the move again. On moving morning, Dad arrived with coffee and 6 bungee cords tied into a knot he insisted was organized. Lila brought muffins and labeled every box with a thick black marker. "Kitchen," she read from one. "Look at us. Growth." You wrote "Misc bathroom cords" on that one. They were in the bathroom. You packed an extension cord with shampoo, geographic labeling. We were loading my mattress when Mom pulled into the lot. She stayed in her car long enough that Dad stopped pretending not to watch her. Then she got out holding a plastic storage tote. "I found your winter blankets," she said. They were not my winter blankets. They were blankets from her linen closet that had covered every couch in our family at some point. One was brown with orange leaves. The other shed blue fuzz on anything it touched. "I have blankets," I said. "These are warmer." "Okay." She handed me the tote. We stood there with it between us. "I didn't know what time you were starting," she said. I texted the group. "My phone has been strange." Lila looked at Dad. Dad became extremely interested in the bungee knot. Mom glanced at the open truck bed. "You packed the dishes under the books?" "The books won't break," Lila said. "The dishes will when the books shift. They're secured." "With that knot?" Dad straightened. "The knot is load-bearing." Mom sighed, put down her purse, and climbed into the truck bed. Within 15 minutes, she had rearranged everything. I wanted to object on principle, but the boxes stopped moving when she pushed them. At Celeste's building, Mom wiped the inside of every kitchen cabinet, despite Celeste explaining they had already been cleaned. Dad assembled my bed frame backward, then accused the instructions of bias. Lila and I carried the frame into the hallway to turn it around. For 3 hours, my family helped me create the separation Mom did not want. That contradiction sat inside every box. When we finished, the room looked smaller with my belongings in it, but also more mine. My legal pad went on the desk. The white mechanic's envelope went into the top drawer. The brown blanket with orange leaves covered the bed. Mom stood in the doorway. "You don't have much closet space. I don't have many clothes. You could leave off-season things at home. I'll make it work." Her mouth tightened at the phrase. "I know you will," she said. Lila and Dad went downstairs for the last load. Mom touched the corner of my desk. "I hate that you think you have to get away from us. I'm getting closer to harbor. You know that isn't all this is, no?" She looked at the legal pad. "I never meant for you to feel used. I know. Intent matters. It matters. It just doesn't erase effect." "Dr. Park?" "Me." That almost made her smile. She opened her purse and removed an envelope. This one said "Refund" in her handwriting. Inside were $70 and a sheet of lined paper. She had made her own ledger. Every payment was listed. The cash for the car, her transfers, Dad's commission, Lila's payments. The total at the bottom did not match mine because she had counted the full restaurant gift card as money returned to the family. I looked up. That dinner was for Dad. It still reduced an expense. An expense Dad paid because the gift card was at Lila's apartment? I knew you'd focus on that. You put it on a debt ledger. Mom took the page back, crossed out the gift card, and changed the total. There. It was such a ridiculous, familiar act that I laughed. She looked offended. Then she laughed too. Not for long. The hurt remained. But for a few seconds, we stood in my new room together, disagreeing over arithmetic instead of whether the debt existed. "I can't repay it all by graduation," she said. "I know. Your father thinks we should stop discussing a date. Dad doesn't like dates he can't control. He thinks the number keeps you angry. The number keeps us accurate." Mom folded the ledger along the same crease. "I miss when you called just to talk. I miss when I didn't wonder what the call would cost." She flinched, but she stayed. I'm trying, she said. I know. You could acknowledge that more. You could make trying less dependent on applause. Her eyebrows rose. That was Dr. Park. That one might have been. Dad shouted from downstairs that the truck was empty. Mom put the ledger back in the envelope and left it on my desk. She did not hug me. At the door, she said, "The blue blanket sheds." I know. Wash it separately. I know. Celeste seems nice. You spoke to her for 4 minutes. She has kind eyes. She discusses blood. Everyone needs an interest. After they left, I sat on the bed and listened to the building. Water moved through pipes. Someone laughed in the apartment above. A washing machine thumped off balance downstairs. No one called my name. The silence felt lonely for almost an hour. Then it began to feel like room. My commute changed everything ordinary. I could leave at 7:30 and arrive early. I could come home for lunch if I forgot it. Gas lasted twice as long. On placement days, I no longer watched the clock with the fear that one accident on the interstate could rearrange my degree. I kept the Saturday hotel double, but I stopped accepting Sunday overnights. My manager asked twice, complained once, then started calling Paige first. At Harbor, my work with Renee deepened. She did not leave the relationship immediately. She went back twice, then apologized to me as if she had failed an assignment. "I feel like you're disappointed," she said. I made myself wait before answering. "I'm worried about you." That's a nice version of disappointed. It's not the same. How? Disappointment would make your decision about what I needed you to do. Renee studied me. And worry? Worry belongs to me. You don't have to fix it. The words came out before I realized I believed them. Later, Dr. Park reviewed the session recording. "That was good," she said. "Thank you." "You look surprised." I was. Try not to require your clients to teach you everything. That would reduce tuition. She almost smiled. I completed my first block of clinical hours on schedule. The attendance warning remained in my file, but no second review followed. I arrived early so consistently that Kayla at reception began leaving the front door key beneath a ceramic planter if she saw my car outside. The hotel paid down the repair balance. Family repayments lowered the scholarship debt unevenly. Mom sent $70 when she could. Dad sent $200 after another commission and wrote, "Still not imaginary." Lila began sending $150 from each full-time check. The first transfer memo said, "Dolphin Hazard Pay." The next said, "Active Emergency Relief Fund." When I told her she did not need to make jokes about every payment, she said, "I'm not joking. Those dolphins know what they did." She lasted 6 weeks with the shower curtain before replacing it. Her new apartment changed her, too. Brooke expected rent on the 1st and did not accept emotional weather as currency. They divided groceries, cleaning, and utilities. When Lila forgot to take out the trash, Brooke did not call Mom. She put a note on the refrigerator that said, "Your turn, friend." Lila sent me a picture. "I think she's mad." I replied, "Have you considered taking out the trash?" Prosecutor Mara. The trash disappeared. Mom remained angry about the move. She referred to Lila's old apartment as home and Brooke's apartment as the place with the plants. She complained that neither of us visited enough. When we did visit, she tried so hard not to ask for help that conversations became strange. One Sunday, Dad spent 20 minutes describing a problem with his phone printer connection while Mom stared at the ceiling. Finally, I said, "Do you want me to look at it?" Mom turned quickly. "Only if you want to." Dad handed over the phone. "I want you to." The printer had lost the Wi-Fi password. It took 4 minutes. Dad thanked me. Mom did not say, "See, that wasn't so hard." The absence of the sentence was its own effort. At dinner, she served pot roast and did not produce a budget. Afterward, Lila and I washed dishes while Dad and Mom argued gently over a television remote. "Are you still mad at me?" Lila asked. "Yes." She handed me a wet plate. "Still? Less? Percentage?" "I don't know. You track everything else." I dried the plate. "Are you still mad at me?" I asked. "For refusing the essay." "For everything." She rinsed the serving spoon. "Less. Percentage? 42. That is very specific." I made it up. We stacked the last dishes. Lila had not reapplied for the accelerated cohort. She was preparing for the standard fall term and saving the difference between her old rent and the new one. Lakehurst had invited deferred students to apply for a limited scholarship fund, but she had not mentioned needing help. I knew the deadline because I had looked it up. For 3 days, I resisted asking. On the 4th, I texted, "Scholarship application due soon. You good?" she replied. "Already drafting." That was all. The restraint bothered me more than it should have. I wanted to see the prompt. I wanted to know which story she was telling. I wanted the familiar pleasure of finding the sentence hidden beneath the sentence she had written. I told myself curiosity was not control. Then I checked the family ledger instead. The remaining debt was still substantial, but no longer impossible. It had become a line moving downward rather than a hole I kept falling into. Harbor offered to keep me through graduation so I could complete advanced hours with Renee and 3 other clients. Dr. Park wrote my mid-year evaluation in language so dry that demonstrates growing clinical judgment felt like a standing ovation. My final semester began. One evening, after I finished a hotel shift and drove the 12 minutes home, I found an email from Lila. The subject line said, "Professional Inquiry." The message contained no attachment. I am applying for the Lakehurst Bridge Scholarship. The essay is 900 words. I need proofreading for grammar and clarity, but I don't want you to rewrite it. What would you charge? I read the email twice. Then I called her. She answered with, "That was not permission to negotiate. I'm not negotiating. I can use the writing center." I know, and I will. If you'd rather not mix work and family, I know. She went quiet. I looked at Mom's ledger beside my legal pad, both sets of numbers now close enough to agree. "Send me the essay," I said. "My rate is dinner." "What kind of dinner?" "One without a gift card. That seems targeted. It's a professional boundary." She laughed softly. Then the attachment arrived. The essay began with the notice taped to Lila's apartment door. She did not make the landlord crueler than he had been. She did not describe herself as blindsided. She wrote that she had ignored 2 emails, let 1 call go to voicemail, and avoided checking her account because the balance could not frighten her if she did not look at it. Then she wrote, "When my mother paid what I owed, I called it support because that word allowed me not to ask who had absorbed the consequence. I stopped reading. Celeste came into the kitchen wearing hospital scrubs and carrying a bowl of cereal. Bad? She asked. No. Good? Annoyingly. She sat across from me. Is this the sister with the rent? Yes. Did she describe you as beautiful and blameless? No. Then she lacks gratitude. I smiled and returned to the essay. Lila described deferring admission, increasing her work hours, and moving into Brooke's apartment. She did not pretend those choices had transformed her overnight. She included the first time Brooke had left the trash note on the refrigerator and how furious she had felt before realizing the note contained no judgment at all. It was only a consequence with handwriting. The final paragraph said she wanted to counsel people without confusing help with rescue. She wrote that care should increase another person's ability to choose, not quietly transfer every cost to the most capable person nearby. The sentence was good. I still wanted to change it. I wanted to replace increase with protect. I wanted to move the clause. I wanted to cut the adverb in the second paragraph and give the ending a cleaner rhythm. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I read it again in Lila's voice. I corrected 2 commas, marked 1 sentence as unclear, and fixed Lakehurst's full program name. Beside the closing paragraph, I left a comment. This sounds like you. I sent it back. Lila called 4 minutes later. That's it? You had 2 comma errors and 1 sentence that wandered into traffic. You didn't change the opening. It works. You always change my openings. Your openings used to need changing. So this is good? Yes. Actually good or sister good? Actually good. She went quiet. Are you crying? I asked. No. You inhale through your teeth when you're trying not to cry. I'm having an allergy. To feedback, to growth. I leaned back in the kitchen chair. Why did you agree to read it? She asked. Because you asked. I've asked before. This time, you gave me a way to say no. Celeste lifted her cereal bowl in silent approval. Lila said, I was terrified you would. I know. But you didn't. No. That feels different. It is. We met for dinner after she submitted the application. She chose a diner near her office where the menus were laminated and the booths squeaked when anyone moved. The server placed the check between us. Lila took it before I could. You don't have to prove anything, I said. I'm paying your professional fee. You bought me grilled cheese. You ordered grilled cheese. It was the financially responsible choice. You also got pie. She paid with her own card. It went through. We both watched the machine approve it and then looked at each other. That was dramatic for no reason, she said. There was a reason. Fair. Outside, she handed me my charcoal blazer from the interview. It had been dry cleaned and covered in a plastic bag. You could have kept it, I said. No, I'm developing ethics. Slowly. She hugged me before I reached my car. For most of our lives, Lila had hugged like she asked for everything else. Suddenly, completely, already assuming I would catch her. This one was lighter. She left enough space for me to decide whether to close it. I did. The Bridge Scholarship gave her $2,500 toward the fall term. It did not make Lakehurst affordable by magic. She still needed loans. She still had to keep full-time hours until classes began, then reduce them carefully. Brooke agreed to renew the lease for another year. Mom celebrated the scholarship by calling it proof that everything worked out. Lila said, not everything. Mom went quiet, then corrected herself. It's good news, she said. It is, Lila replied. That exchange lasted less than 10 seconds. 6 months earlier, it would not have happened at all. My own final semester moved faster than I wanted. Clinical hours accumulated in narrow boxes on a spreadsheet. Hotel weekends became less frequent once the repair balance dropped. I continued living with Celeste, who tolerated my early alarms and once left a note on the blender that said, "We remain estranged." Andrea discarded the twist ties in stages. 4 became 12, then 20. She kept the blue tin long after it was empty. It's useful, she told me. For what? Buttons. I did not ask whether the buttons needed saving. Renee stopped apologizing when she described going back. Then, eventually, she stopped going back. The end of the relationship was less cinematic than either of us expected. She changed her phone plan, collected the microwave, and left his dishes exactly where they were. During one of our final sessions, she said, "You look less nervous than when we met. You told me I wasn't occupied yet. You were pretending. I was working very hard at looking calm, at being useful." She smiled. Did it work? Sometimes. What changed? I thought about the question. I stopped assuming everything that happened in the room belonged to me. That sounds relaxing. It is not as relaxing as advertised. At my final evaluation, Dr. Park sat across from me with the dead succulent still on her desk. It had somehow acquired a small paper sign that said, "Resilient." "That plant is dead," I said. "Your attachment to fixed categories concerns me. It has no leaves. It has history." She pushed my evaluation across the desk. My attendance warning was documented in one paragraph. Beneath it, she had written that I responded to feedback, maintained reliable attendance afterward, and demonstrated strong clinical growth. I read the final sentence twice. "Do you disagree?" she asked. "No. You're allowed to believe good information, too." "I know." "Do you?" I looked up. "I'm working on it." Dr. Park nodded. "That answer is becoming less annoying. Will you miss me?" "No. Priya said you would. Priya is sentimental and steals pasta." She stood and held out her hand. When I took it, she pulled me into a brief hug instead. "Do not become necessary to your clients," she said near my ear. "Become trustworthy." Then she released me and returned to her desk as if she had not hugged anyone in her life. My graduation tickets arrived in an email on a Tuesday afternoon. I had 4. For several minutes, I stared at the number. There were 4 of us in the immediate family, including me, which meant 3 guests and 1 unused ticket. The simplicity felt suspicious. I sent the details to the family group. Dad replied first, "Wouldn't miss it." Lila sent 7 exclamation points and a photograph of the charcoal blazer hanging in her closet again. Mom did not respond until that evening. "I'm proud of you." No heart, no sunrise. Just the sentence. I called her. She answered carefully. "Hi." "Hi." "I was going to call." "I know. Do you?" "No." She laughed once. For a while, neither of us knew what to say. I could hear the library's automatic doors opening behind her. "I can send another payment Friday," she said. "You don't have to discuss that every time we talk." I thought the number kept us accurate. It does, but we can be more than accurate. Mom breathed in. "I'd like that," she said. The debt was not repaid by graduation. Mom and Dad had returned more than half. Lila's regular payments had covered much of the rest, though I eventually told her that the original obligation belonged to Mom, not her. Lila kept paying anyway. "I received the rent," she said. "I'm not outsourcing the repayment, too." I stopped assigning her amounts. Sometimes she sent $150, sometimes $50. Once, after a large insurance bill, she sent $10 with the memo, "Symbolic yet annoying." The balance continued downward. Mom still hated the ledger. She also started asking to see it so hers would match. Graduation morning arrived with cold rain. The university had erected signs across campus directing families toward parking lots that were already full. I wore my gown over a navy dress and carried my cap because the elastic made my hair rise in a shape no degree could justify. Dad called from the wrong parking garage. "We're near the science building," he said. "There are 3 science buildings. The brick one. They're all brick. It has windows." I closed my eyes. "Send your location." "I don't know how. Ask Lila. She's directing your mother." In the background, Mom said, "I can hear you, Glenn." I found them 20 minutes later beneath an awning. Dad wore a suit and carried the same tape measure I had given him, clipped proudly to his belt for reasons no one could explain. Lila had brought a bouquet wrapped in brown paper. Mom held a tote bag containing snacks, tissues, safety pins, bottled water, and probably a flashlight. When she saw me, her face changed. "Oh," she said. "What?" "Nothing." "Mom, you look beautiful." She reached for me, stopped, then smoothed the edge of my graduation hood instead. "May I?" she asked. The question was so small I almost missed what it contained. "Yes." She adjusted the hood, stepped back, and wiped beneath one eye. Lila handed me the flowers. "I was going to get roses," she said, "but these were cheaper and looked emotionally stable. They were sunflowers. Good choice." Dad hugged me hard enough to bend the cap in my hand. "I told everybody at work," he said. "You told Peter?" "Peter is dead to me." We took photographs beneath the awning. In half of them, Mom looked at me instead of the camera. The ceremony took place in an arena full of folding chairs and damp coats. Graduates lined up in a concrete hallway while an administrator mispronounced names into a headset. I found mine on the card they had given me, Mara Lynn Ellis. For years, my name had meant the person who could be counted on. The one who came early, stayed late, read the form, carried the lamp, brought the stronger tape. I had confused being counted on with being counted. Ahead of me, a graduate crossed the stage. Her family screamed from somewhere above. My line moved. When my name was called, I heard Dad first, a loud, completely undignified yell, then Lila, then Mom shouting my name with nothing attached to it. I crossed the stage. The diploma cover was empty, which the university had warned us about, but I still opened it and laughed. A photographer captured that exact moment. Me in a crooked cap, holding an empty folder, looking happier than made sense. After the ceremony, we went to a restaurant near Celeste's apartment, not the Italian place. Dad chose a small barbecue restaurant where sauce was allowed to taste like itself. Mom had made a reservation. Lila had brought the Lakehurst essay in her purse. She placed it beside my plate after dinner. "What's this?" "The final copy. I already read it. I know. Turn it over." On the back, she had printed the scholarship award email. Beneath it, in pen, she had written, "Paid professional fee, 1 grilled cheese, pie, and consent." I folded the page and put it in my bag. Dad raised his glass. "To Dr. Ellis," he said. "I'm not a doctor. To Counselor Ellis. Not licensed yet." "Tamara," Lila said. Mom lifted her glass. "Tamara." No one added dependable, practical, or strong. Just my name. The check came. Dad reached for it, but Mom stopped him. "I have it." She placed a gift card on the tray. Lila stared. Mom stared back. "You brought it?" she asked. I wrote it on my hand. She held up her palm. In blue ink, it said gift card. We laughed so hard the server came over to make sure we were all right. We weren't entirely. Mom still owed me money. Lila still had loans ahead of her. Dad still wanted peace before honesty on most days. I still felt the old reflex whenever someone unfolded a form or mentioned a deadline. But when the server carried the gift card away, no one looked at me to cover what was missing. There was nothing missing. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. She did not pull me toward anything. She simply held it. This time, I let her.